just like that. We ain't the same like that. OGs gave me game. I gave the game.
He hooks himself back in. They want it. Kizzy's not able. It's a pentakill.
Second, they'll find a second. Chippies is on an absolute tear right now.
Welcome back. We're going to be seeing our two final teams playing for our week 2 here. It is going to be Pentanet up against Ground Zero. Bit of a team that would like to be higher in the standings in the side of Pentanet, and Ground Zero just trying to make their stance here in the LCO. Try and prove something. But yeah, I'm not too sure what to make of this matchup. I think there is a realm in which we do see it being two quite close games, Max.
Yeah, and I think that if there's any week that Ground Zero can be looking to capitalize on a PGG with a potentially disrupted roster, it is this week, right? Particularly looking down towards that bot lane. We know that Aiko, the former Hooper, is one of the players who can take over games if given the chance, and certainly going to be looking to have his resurgence this split.
We can have a look at the rosters, in fact, to see who will be playing for these two teams. Starting off with Pentanet. A little bit of a silhouette in the bottom lane over there, Skim.
Yes, Big Foreigner returns, which is an interesting one because this is a jungle player. So coming into the roster as a support is a bit of a switch up. And last year they would have spent time on Kangaroo Sports and before leaving Gravitas, right? So you're thinking this is a massive jump up the ladder in terms of pedigree for a team to surround yourself with. But I'm curious to sort of see the reasoning behind this, what he can bring to the team. I think his most played and competitive has been Trundle, so maybe a bit of cheeky Trundle support perhaps. I don't know. Who's to say? Font of Life broken. But either way, I think the major concern from us was in their game 1 last week, they looked to try something a little bit different. They were then very, very reliant on Dongi to try and set up those plays with Lissandra. Too much pressure on him. It didn't work. Game number 2, they reverted to a successful, Shernfire gets insanely fed, plays Nocturne, relentless 4-man dives into bot lane, Violet 1v9, sort of off you go. And it just felt very rigid, very much like what has actually changed between Split 1 and 2, because if that's still the style you're relying on, obviously these other teams are going to level up. What have you done as well?
Yeah, their opponents as well that Max, you briefly mentioned on the side of Ground Zero Gaming that could potentially be taking advantage of the fact that they have a substitute in that bottom lane being paired with Violet is going to be Aiko and Bulldog down there. But the rest of the lineup for Ground Zero too, having a bit of a standout play last week, Destiny.
Yeah, I think Ground Zero have definitely got a lot of pieces that they have to build a solid roster. I think Gooby in solo queue is pretty good at ganking junglers. I think Aiko, definitely one of the hyped up prospects in the OS AD carry position. And in Bulldog, I mean, in solo queue, he's a bit of a menace on these hook champs. So I think there's a lot of signs of life with this roster, and I think they could definitely take a game off Pentanet today.
Did you know, in the last week, for PGG, Violet had like a 95+ kill participation. Like that is how round the bot lane they sort of play. Like Skimmy alluded to it, but like it is super heavy. And do you think that that is is that too one-dimensional for a team? And is that something that Ground Zero with Gooby able to take advantage of?
Yeah, definitely. I think both teams, whichever AD carry gets ahead in this game, will take over it. So I think there will be a huge focus on will Violet get fed or will Aiko get fed. And it's going to be we're going to have to be watching at Shernfire and Gooby. Who's going to get off the gank bot lane? Who's going to get that jungle lead and lead their team for the win?
Yeah. Who do you think Maximize out of those two junglers is a little bit heavier on the rotations, a little bit more focused?
I would say Shernfire is more conditioned, if anything. If we're going to like a Pavlov's dog type thing, when you're playing with Violet, your job is to be bot lane.
You're talking to Praedith though there, have you?
We're talking about Praedith, exactly. But Praedith, Violet, when these players are on your team, you play around bot lane. And I think that the big question for me coming into today is whether having Foreigner changes that up. Right, I know they will be playing to bot lane, but whether they'll be able to execute to that same level. We know previously Appy, the one to play the Nautilus to make those explosive plays, if they're not able to get those off and potentially Ground Zero can recover or stabilize those early plays, it could be Aiko taking over the game like you said, Destiny.
I'm actually just going to yoink that question, Max, because it was a fantastic question. I'm just going to poise it to our interviewee, Violet from PGG, who's joining us. Violet, hey, how are you feeling today?
Hello, I'm doing good, thank you.
That's good. We were just having a bit of a chit chat about what's happening down in bot lane. You guys obviously have a substitute down there. So first of all, do you feel comfortable not having Appy with you? And how is it going to change up how much focus is going to be placed on the bottom lane?
Yeah, I think me and Appy, we've played together for a while, so it's going to be different, I guess, playing with Foreigner because he's it's like he literally only had like 2 days of scrims, but honestly, I'm feeling pretty comfortable with Foreigner. He's a very chill dude, and like he's very open to feedback, so it's been going well so far.
Awesome.
Hey Violet, long time no see. Obviously you're playing against Aiko, another hyped up 80 carry prospect who you've played a little bit against. How do you feel in this matchup? Obviously your ego and pride's on the line. I know you're very a hungry player and you want to show you're one of the best 80 carries in the region. So how do you feel about Aiko as a player? Because obviously he is newer.
I mean, I think it's going to be free. I don't think I've ever seen this guy carry a game in his life. Like, if you guys can, if you can name me a game where this guy has carried any games, like, I'd be happy to see it. But I don't think this guy's ever done well. Every time I play against him, he goes down to 100 plus CS or something. So I think it's going to be free.
It's a little bit of bot gap is kind of what you prophesizing for this matchup, huh?
Yeah, I think even with Foreigner as like my support, I don't think it'll be an issue. This guy will still go down 50 plus CS.
All right, when it does come to the PGG Ground Zero matchup, is there any aspect you're worried about for Ground Zero that you think, hey, maybe they do this a little bit better, whether it's rotations, their mid lane, their top lane, team fighting?
Nah, I mean, if they somehow manage to get mind control powers and like mind control me and my whole team to int, then I think that's like the only way they can win. But otherwise, like, we're just gonna win, I think.
Oh, Violet, I've absolutely missed you. I've missed the interview so much. Do you have anything else you want to add, Destiny?
Just Giga Chad. Let's just see the game. I just want to watch the game now. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Violet.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you.
Dude trash talked his own support, the enemy 80 carry, the entire enemy
He
team.
1v9'd, but in trash talking and on someone
It's
who's
always this
ripped.
thing with Violet. Like, if it's not like a swear bomb, it's one of those where he's just like shitting on the entire league, yeah. Oh,
I'm not gonna lie, I have missed it. One of those interviews where I'm just like, I never know what I'm gonna get with Violet. I wonder how he's changed in the 2 years since I last spoke to him. And let me tell you, in the best way, he hasn't. It is a lot of fun.
Dear.
Yeah, I do wonder how much the sentiment rings true for you guys, though, on if you think that bot gap's there. If you do think Ground Zero have the ability to execute a draft maybe a little bit more cleaner than Pentanet.
Personally, I just feel like it's up to Foreigner. We don't really know how he's going to play as support, and I think that's the big question on everyone's mind right now.
100%. I was going to say, it's the same as like when Appy played into support position, we're saying, what does he play? Because he's a top laner, right? So
True, I remember that change, and we were just like, whoa, what the heck? Do you think support is one of the easier positions for people to change into or sub into, Destiny?
I think mechanically it's easy to come into, but it's more knowing the base timers, where you need to put wards, where you have to connect with your jungler. There's a lot of fundamentals to it, and it's did he learn that in 2 days? That's what we're going to find out.
I mean, if he's an ex-jungler, maybe there's a little bit he already knows about as well. But we've got to talk to Ground Zero Gaming too. We can't just have one team interview. We got Gooby joining us here. Hey, Gooby, how are you feeling for the matchup against Pentanet?
Honestly, pretty stoked, you know.
Yeah?
Finished my uni exam, so about to gap Shernfire.
Yo, nice. I love it. What are you studying at uni?
I study IT, comp-sci.
Oh, cool. I want to know if you're more excited for the game or the interview today, though.
Honestly, I'm pretty nervous, so more excited for the game.
All right, I love it. I promise the interviews aren't that bad.
I'm loving the background, by the way. I love the dog in the hat. Is there a story behind this, or?
It's just my favorite plushie. His name's Pom Pom, so.
Oh, that's awesome.
Cool.
Any
So
leak?
sorry, I have one question, Gooby. When are we going to see the Shaco, man? I need to see your Shaco.
My team just keeps holding me back. They won't let me pick it. They're saying it's a solo queue champion, but like I'm convinced it's good and competitive.
Is there any other champs like that you're trying to hide? You're like forcing, like, guys, new patch, hear me out.
Honestly, I think Ghost Nunu really good in jungle too, but my team just won't let me play it. So.
All right, so they're two that if we see them, we just know Ground Zero have just given up all hopes on drafting then, right?
Should be an instant GG, you know, not
the other way around.
Yeah.
What do you think you have over Shernfire, by the way, when it comes to comparing junglers? What do you feel that you do a little bit better than him, and the reason why you are gonna gap him?
Oh, honestly, respect to Shern. I think he's a really good jungler. So I think the only thing I have on him is a better hairline.
Oh my god.
Hey, Great interviews today,
Props
guys.
to you.
Great, hey.
Yeah, Gooby man, I don't know what you're nervous for. Fantastic interview. We'll let you go. We'll let you get your head in the game for this one. But look, best of luck.
Sweet as, thank you.
See ya. Apparently it's all about the hairline. The hairline is the insta win or the insta loss on Gap and junglers, Max.
Oh,
It's everything.
no.
I just, like I said, this has been great interviews. These have just been the best. I love it. I love it. Not taking himself too seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. I also saw he had cue cards. I wonder if that was studying for his exam or studying for the interview. I should
Yeah,
have
he had like
asked
a
him.
pre-prepped answer to every single question.
I
He's
felt
like,
like he
I
was going
have
to
no-
actually put it up on the screen, but like, this is how he's going to beat Shernfire. I was kind of expecting
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Oh, well, if you're asking me, yeah, this is how I'm going to do it, mate.
I've got my speech ready, and here's my bullet points. Yeah. dear me.
Everything Shernfire does wrong and everything I do right. He's going to elevator pitch himself as to why he's the best jungler.
Oh, dear. What a great interview, though. I mean, this almost like hypes yourself up even more for this series, right? Because you've got
Yeah.
these egos and these like clashes of like who's going to win, and then if it doesn't like get itself resolved here, it's going to go to Twitter or it's going to go to solo queue.
I feel like I actually just want to interview Gooby again if they either draw or if they do 2-0 because, man, I want to know everything that went through his mind where he's like, bro, I talk shit in the interview. I'm going to jungle gap if I got to jungle gap.
Was it the first time we did LCO in 2021 when you were here originally and we had both interviewees in at the
Yes,
same
that
time?
was me.
That was when it was super awkward because some guy would be like, yeah, this team's just absolutely crap. And then the other guy just be like,
Yes, no, it was so funny. I remember this because, just quickly before we go into it, I have to like share this anecdote. I remember it was so awkward one time because sometimes we could talk to each other because it was remote. We could talk to each other while you guys were still doing your segment on the broadcast.
Yeah.
And I would say something and I'd not knowingly had the other player there too. So I'd be shit talking like with someone else off camera and then the other player would join. I'm like, oh, anyway.
hey, mate, how are
That's
you, bro?
rough.
Hey, all good banter.
Oh, yeah, no,
worries.
I didn't mean it. No harms, no harms. Me, I don't even play. I've never played a video game in my life. But
Oh.
the one thing I can do is tell you guys side selection and which sides these guys picked.
No
And
way.
surprisingly, yeah, we're seeing
That's
that
illegal.
3-letter color down there. Red, Max, red side.
Oh, I just realized it's because they have chippies. So,
Classic
yeah,
trait.
chippies. If there's any player who likes red side, it's chippies. He will peek a carry, Jax, Camille, anything. This is, I don't even think we've seen a non-blue side pick in the entire split so far.
Yeah,
This
they
one,
won.
They
when
won.
they didn't know the power. That's how Chiefs and Bliss
Okay, well,
got themselves a 2-0. Was
Okay.
because they got blue side twice.
Before they
And
knew the
beat
power, but I
Wrong,
think
actually.
Actually,
I've got the
Max, I'll have
statistics.
to go. You're wrong.
But yes, back to my point.
Yes.
Chippies is a very strong player, and particularly going up against someone like Tron, who Tron's shown he can carry on stuff like Olaf, but Olaf is not a champion you can just comfortably blind pick, right? Chippies will have stuff prepared that you can play into that, so I think that that's going to be a point they're looking to exploit in this game.
Speaking of, you know what I'm just quietly really excited about is the fact
No.
that Tien played Olaf into Chippies. We know that Tron is an Olaf player, so imagine if he plays into Chippies and Chippies like, hey, that's 2 players I need to put down.
The triangle of Olaf.
Yep. The rock, paper, scissors of Olaf players.
I guess.
Pretty much what you just did. The old box where it's all going. If you guys don't know, though, you don't know how to base your selection on who should win, I can't help you. All I'm going to say, though, is use your points, have your Dare fan vote, have your say up there in the corner right above Max's head there where the Dare
Stop
fridge
calling me
is.
out for this, man. Seriously, I'm tired.
Oh,
Stop
his
here.
muscles are
Oh,
fatigued.
Oh,
Too much.
There we go, right up there.
The crowd's like, oh, he did it, he did it.
He did the thing. He did the thing. I love it. And we're going to talk about our predictions as well because 2 O's across the first page. Wait, how are you guys on 6 points?
Yeah, Al. We're beating Twitch chat.
Wait.
We're
W
beating
in the
Twitch
chat.
We
chat.
are beating
Twitch chat.
Twitch chat.
W in
and
the
Nats.
chat.
And I, we're the same. You and I, we're the same Twitch chat. I get you. I understand. It happens.
Winners POV.
Winners pub. How does it feel up there?
Life
We
sure
sh-
is sweet,
we
ain't
should-
it?
Yeah, feels pretty good up here.
We should put Tally and Destiny's scores together.
We should have a guest competition.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
True. What did Telly walk away with? He didn't get 100%, was it?
I'm pretty sure he did.
No, 'cause it's the last
he
game
got
went 1-1, and I think it was
everyone
only
did a
Rusty that went
2-0.
for it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
He got
Yeah.
3 right. You got in 4. So the guest, even though the guest missed out on 1 day, right now they're the same scoreline as me.
You do get that on the
They
big
have
jobs.
1 less production day, and yet same scoreline as me.
Unfortunate.
How does it feel to be so good, Destiny?
It's just another day in the life of Mitchell Shaw. It's just the way it is.
You wake up and it's just so easy to be a legend,
That's just
huh?
how it is.
100%. You got 100% on the MVPs. You got
Chippies,
100%.
don't let me down after I just said that. Please, don't let me down.
If you were on Chippy's team, would it him being that, what Max was talking about, favorable towards red side, give you enough confidence?
He was that guy. If
Oh,
he
okay.
got if
Oh,
he got
okay.
one of his comfort champs, he would carry the game.
Yeah.
But recently he has not been carrying the game, so please, Chippies, carry the game. I'm
Please,
begging.
please, please, please. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to have Grand Zero Gaming on blue side both times round now. And like I said, blue side has been very, very favorable for a lot of teams, especially in matchups where it doesn't feel like there's a clear favorite. And we've talked about this for most of the show today, that this matchup is one of those ones. We aren't like, even though our predictions were 2-0, it's not like we're out here being like, oh, yeah, Pentanet gapped them and everything. Like, Pentanet is just S tier in comparison.
I think the concern for me is we've only seen these two teams play against each other once, and on that occasion it was a case of just four-man relentless diving into the bot lane, like we've already mentioned happened for PGG last week. That was actually the game, if you remember, was when Dongy did that dive in bot lane as Ari, then stopwatch under the tower,
Oh, yes.
drop the aggro, Appy tanks it for 1 second, and
Yep.
they walk away, and they're all like blinking HP, and you're thinking there's no way. So I think if they can deny those dives, Grand Zero stand a chance to upset.
Okay, well, I'm excited to see there's going to be those plays, who's going to win in game one, and obviously which champs are going to be selected, as it is ready game number 1.
Well, let's load into the Rift and see how this one all plays out. If you get blue side both times, what OP champion are you taking? With Cassante up, they say Nat, Zeri's a little bit better. I respect it. Look, if you are Aiko, if you want to carry, that is the champion to do it.
Well, that's the thing. When Violet asked that question in the interview, can you show me a game where Hooper carried? Do you remember the game Hooper subbed in for Order?
And he did.
Played the Zeri and he like 1v4'd an entire game.
Is that Dragon
So-
fight against, I want to say Direwolves, was
Yeah,
it?
exactly. And
It's
I
phenomenal.
think that this champion, like you rightly mentioned, this is his bread and butter. This is the champion he feels most comfortable on. So going up against Violet, you do want to make sure you're sticking to what you know, and that is certainly what Aiko is going for here.
100%. So it's going to be about what is the pairing with it. Obviously, Yumi's been banned away. We're not even seeing it get played anyway, but maybe this was that one time when Grand Zero would say, all right, Enchanter into Enchanter, let's make it happen. We know that Bulldog absolutely loves it. Something's hilarious here for Gooby. I mean, I guess Maokai's just the best champion in the game.
It's so funny. He loves playing it. Clearly, it's just the best. But it's going to be the Maokai Ari lock-in. So low damage mid-jungle, but very high facilitation, very high amounts of crowd control coming in from this duo.
Yeah.
Looking to set up towards that bot lane, helping Aiko and Bulldog out, potentially helping Bulldog as well. But, you know, when we were going in, when you see that sub-support, you typically do expect they are going to play something like an Enchanter, and that's certainly what Foreigner's opted for here with the Lulu. Just going to sit behind Violet, let him go to work, and buff him up when the need
And
comes.
100%. I mean, you can meme as much as you like when it comes to these Enchanter players, but it really is a case of like, give me the shield, give me the ultimate, and basically say, you know, I'm here to simp for you. You know, there's a cleanse, there's a Mikhails, you 1v9 because we know you've got the hands to make it work. Lissandra's actually going to come out again, so Dongy, I suppose, and the rest of Pentanet have faith that that is a comp that they can really make work, and they're going to try it again into Grand Zero. They're going to ban away their Olaf. I respect that, right? You know, you don't want to have to deal with the double-pronged attempt of a Zeri and an Olaf trying to run through you.
Yeah, absolutely. So the question for me is what Ground Zero do want to look for towards their top side then, right? If we are anticipating the PGG are going to hold their top lane 2-5, which is probably what we're going to see given they have chippies, do you opt for something like a Cassante? Because in that case, you've got very low damage and it is really all on Aiko to carry the game. In fact, it's going to be banned away. What does Tron have in his bag that he's comfortable blind picking that provides a bit of damage secondarily to this Zeri so it's not all on the bot lane?
I'm quite curious if he's going to be almost relegated to tank duties again. I know in their last series when they fared against each other, he was playing the Gregor, so obviously it's been banned away by themselves here, but I'm thinking along those sort of similar lines. You know, we've seen the sign from him. I wouldn't be surprised if there was something in that vein to basically say, you know, it isn't about me carrying, I'm just here to buff up the rest of our team, you know, be that engaged, then impact the facilitator. And it's always been a critical point of Ground Zero is them not having those engaged tools. There has been a lot about Gooby trying to do it all on his own, almost be that sacrificial lamb. As Zin is actually going to come out to play a champion that we've just not seen in such a long time. I want to say there's almost like a foreigner champion, but he's not their jungler.
Yeah, it is very much a foreigner champion, and what we're seeing so far from PGG is skirmish-heavy mid-jungle that can buy a lot of time in the front line, right? Lissandra ultimate, Lissandra's going to go for that Zhonya's as well. We're going to have so much time staying alive, and you called it, Skimmy. It is going to be the Scion here, so a very, very tanky top side. The worry for me, though, Camille, Fiora, both unbanned, all these champions that thrive against these tanky, low-damage top sides. Chippies is going to have a field day in this game.
Would Chippies decide to say, let's lock in Gwen, which has also been banned away so many times and is such a strong champion still in the mix at the same kind of power discrepancy as an Olaf, I would say, right up there with it. It's going to get hovered, it's going to get slam locked in. And it just makes so much sense into a Scion.
Analysts, give me here. You're
Sometimes.
calling everything.
Sometimes it works out, mate.
But you're absolutely right. And when I look at this duo, this top side from PGG, it's so annoying to play against. Gwen W, Xin Zhao ultimate, Lissandra ultimate, all these things making this front
Immunity
line
galore, isn't it?
immune. It's so hard to actually pick someone off here. And that creates so much space for Violet to just free hit over the top, get a reset, and then run forward. To me, Ground Zero are really going to need to make sure that Aiko is ahead, because if he's even or behind, he simply won't have the time to kill everyone on PGG.
100% right, going to get completely zoned away from the mist of the Gwen or the Crescent Guard of the Xin, or, you know, get isolated out by, you know, Lissandra flanking and dropping the nuke on your head, right? So it's going to be a massive ask as to how can they find themselves in a really strong position come mid-game where I feel like Pentanet completely flourish.
Absolutely. That being said, Ground Zero, emphasis on the Ahri. We know that this is one of his signature champions. I saw a banger Twitter clip from him the other day actually on this. So these two champions can certainly get involved early, get the map going, and give young Aiko, I keep saying Hooper, it's hard. It's so hard.
It's going to happen.
But young Aiko the chance to really show that, hey, maybe Violet, this isn't going to be a game where I'm 100 CS down where you just get to walk all over me. I'm here to show that I am one of the best AD carries in the region.
Absolutely, and I think, you know, you sort of add that fuel to the fire as a result of, you know, the VOD happens, you reflect on the game itself, and if the result does actually go your way, you've got the clip, you've got the name and shame, the sort of the banter for yourself, but obviously the fun fan interaction as well that goes behind it. Says, oh, you think you're the best, well, what happened in this game here? Regardless, it's a blue side draft here for Ground Zero. It's a comp where it really is the Zeri show, a champion which we know is synonymous with success. It just farms pentakills for fun. Really is that broken. But on the flip side, it's basically saying whatever you can do, we might be able to do better. A comp where it really is ultra violet, a Jinx with a Lulu, with all these bruises, with all this immunity potential. So if you can't kill them, you can't get to the back line.
Absolutely. The question for me heading into this early game is around this mid jungle. Both of them very explosive, both of them high CC in this early game to catch out a target, blow them up. Whichever mid jungle gets ahead is going to be that mid jungle that can move down towards that bot lane. Top lane really just going to be a snooze fest, farming back and forth. Not really much action expected there, but let's see what Gooby and Emphis and Shernfire and Dongy can get done in this early game.
That is the question, and I'm expecting the mid-jungle perhaps not to spend too much time trying to force fights and kills in the mid lane, and much more about let's get the shove, let's roam and rotate and go to other lanes. That's kind of my emphasis on where we should see a lot of those moves happen on the map. Obviously, they are a very strong 2v2 with the amount of CC. Damage is certainly there as well, and only gets greater once level 6 comes around, but I'm expecting to see them look to try and influence the map and maybe wait out for those crucial breakpoints before they decide to commit to those 5v5s.
Yeah, Xin Zhao will be interesting to see as well. Like you mentioned, it's a champion that we've sort of been on the fringe of the meta recently. Just there's been a few better picks in terms of the bruisers like the Wukong, like the Vi, who provide more reliable engage. The thing is here, if you are looking at PGG's comp, is the lack of engage that I would call into question, right? You are very flank dependent with this Gwen, with this Lissandra. There's no real easy go button. When in comparison, you look at someone like Ground Zero, you've got the Maokai, the Ahri, the Rakan, Scion Ultimate even. There's so many tools to be able to pull those fights on a dime. So to me, it's really going to be about can PGG weather those engages, get their Jinx to this late game and let her run amok.
I remember once upon a time when Peace were at their worst on Violet on that roster, it was the case of let's just AFK the laning phase, hit 30 minutes, and you just say, I bet my house on them winning now. Because he would get 4 items and Mikhail's would be there, and you say, they've lost it, they've missed the mark. So, not to say that's the way this game is going to go, but if it is a comp built around this, if you know, Ground Zero do give them so many pain problems with the ease of access you've just mentioned, if it does go late game, you're still thinking it can go the other way.
Absolutely, and what better way to make your support feel more at home than by saying your only job is to make sure Violet doesn't die, right? There's no onus on him to make proactive plays. There's no onus on him to really dominate the laning phase. All he has to do is follow the lead of one of the best AD carries we've seen in our region. So certainly an easier start for Foreigner coming into this role swap.
It certainly is, but it is all about making sure that they can get to that point in the game, and how can Ground Zero, with the experience of Bulldog as well as Aiko now coming together. It's a brand new bot lane pairing, but showcasing what they've learned in their time, in their small amount of time in the competitive landscape, to try and answer back to that call. I feel like Emphis and Dongy both share a very similar point in time where the meta is perfect for them, with the ability to not necessarily have to be the stars of the show, where they can flex a champion pool full of utility two champs I wouldn't say want to really go at it in a 1v1 affair, want to just push the wave, hit their item spikes, hit the level spikes more than anything and say, all right, where are we going next?
Absolutely, and Dongi is someone who's particularly shown he's incredibly proficient at that, right? PGG sort of having this quote-unquote Southeast Asian style of play where the game is very about skirmish and wave control, like you mentioned, really focusing on when we can move. Dongi an expert at that, and the rest of PGG especially diving towards that bot lane. So as we take a look at this mid jungle, it will be important to keep our eyes on where Dongi is moving, especially with PGG getting the prior like they have been in this bot lane.
Also worth noting that both mid laners are running the unsealed spellbook, right? So they can certainly cycle through some pretty creative options. Perhaps some dark tech going into the smite later on, right, for some crazy Baron steals. That's obviously something to keep your eyes out for. But no crazy interactions. No level 3 ganks. I don't think we're too surprised with that, given sort of the projections we've made as to how it all should really look to play out. Waiting for a lot of that power to come, and you'd imagine once level 6 is online for the mid laners, that's when the link up can really start to come into play.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to be really important. Towards this top side, not really too much action expected, just going to be trading back and forth. But Chippy's, we know he is someone who is going to be aggressive at every opportunity, right? So Tron, he's still got to be careful. He is a tank, but once Gwen hits that level 6 mark, if you're not careful, there can be a potential solo kill opportunity.
Certainly snip, and suddenly a whole bunch of true damage goes your way. They're staying full HP, and you're just gone in a heartbeat. There it is, an instant flash away. Response is the ghost. Run you down. Snip is what we're careful for. Shernfire needs to land to the E to try and engage. Starts it all off. W goes out. The follow-up, knock them up. Two-man Colossal Smash. Is it enough? It certainly is not. First blood goes the way of Pensnet. And in the afterlife, the sign tries to run you down, but it's not going to happen.
And it's a bit of a misstep from Tron there, unfortunately. Towards the end of the play, he tries to click back to get a better position for his passive, but ultimately puts him in the position where Shernfire doesn't have to commit the flash to kill him. And honestly, a nice heads-up play from Shern really doesn't disrupt his clear at all in terms of getting that kill. But meanwhile, on the other side of the map, it is going to go a dragon for the side of Ground Zero, so not completely unpunished in that top side.
It's nice, right? A good trade. And this is what you love to see, right? For every action, and your opposition can look to try and, net something positively for themselves as well. So first blood in exchange for the first dragon. So you do love to see that, and I think that sort of plays quite nicely for Ground Zero, given the fact that you are expecting Foreigner and Violet to be quite tight-knit and quite locked to that lane.
Absolutely, as you see a little bit of skirmishing back and forth. Not really expecting too much kill pressure from either of these bot lanes early on. Really, with the Lulu, Rakan being your only sort of CC available, unless Violet massively mispositions, he's going to be safe the majority of the time. So it really is going to be on that jungle pressure, like a Maokai coming down, like a Xin Zhao, if we are wanting to see kills fall around this bot lane.
Well, it's another game, Max, where their fan vote is overwhelmingly in favor of the favorite, which once again is PGG. It was a 2-0 last game, and a lot of us have predicted it will be another 2-0 in this game as well. But there are moments and there are ways that we can get excited for what Ground Zero can present. You've already mentioned a host of those in terms of ease of avenue for them to start up those fights. And it still does bode very well, given how this first 7 minutes have played out. But it is reaching that point now where the mid laners feel a little bit more topped up and healthy. Items are there, lost chapters are going to be matched, waves can be pushed, roams can be looked at.
Heads up position there from Gooby though to throw out that sapling, right? Being aware of that condition that Dongi can roam down and look for a dive, making sure he's able to defend that, even if it means sacrificing his own tempo. This is something that Gooby, especially as a solo queue player, it takes quite a while to learn, right? The fact that you are going to have to sacrifice just to prevent something that could happen, right? Not necessarily to get anything, but just to be there just in case. And certainly showing some of the things he's picked up in his limited LCO career so far.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the biggest difference I've noticed since, going from OCS back in the day into LCO, right? Back then I was thinking it was like Shaco, Kane, Viego, Graves, like all those champions. It was like, if I don't carry, we don't win. But I think that is the biggest sort of learning point for a lot of these players, whether or not they've had the previous amateur or academy experience to come into this one and say, oh, I can't just, 1v9 Nidalee. I do need to play, in-class role and sort of fit the bill for what my team is built around.
Yeah, absolutely. Dongi doing a good job once again of just hovering off vision. He's so good at just creating the idea of a threat and forcing those responses that we were talking about. Anytime you see Lissandra off map, it's one of the most potent champions at diving you on a stacked wave, so you have to show it some respect. As meanwhile, Jinx.
Oh, nice bit of exchange in the bot lane here, favoring Pensnet. As you can see, that Bulldog has copped a massive beating. Must have taken a rogue grand entrance in, not worked his way, and felt the victim of a lot of harassment on the receiving end of it. Is actually quite lucky not to have burned any summoners in that exchange, so can go back to base. He can come back and look to try and strike again.
And this is the question for me, Skimmy. It is a very slow game, and I'm wondering if Ground Zero are actually happy with that, because you're looking at this team comp, you're thinking, okay, well, top lane, yes, Sion's going to get tanky, but Gwen and Jinx are going to be able to shred through him in the late game. And Ahri Maokai falls off as a duo so hard once we're getting past that 2-item spike. So I'd really love to be seeing a bit more proactivity coming around this bot lane, trying to force some summoners and then a repeat gank. But it seems like PGG are doing just such a good job. As I say that, though...
Yeah, they're going to look to try and find out Dongi in the mid lane right now. 3 members are here. Oh, the Frozen Tomb on his head. That's a guarantee. Out of it, though, is the Charm. And there's a fair bit of damage that comes in after the Ignite from Bulldogs. Rakan is not enough. He needed a couple more auto attacks weaved in there to guarantee the kill. But that's a lot of pressure, a lot of information that they've now revealed in the mid lane there.
It's a lot of pressure, but ultimately... I said they needed to make a play, but I don't know if that's the target you pick, right, Lissandra? Having that ultimate, having that claw to escape as well, and there's just no damage. We can already see the fact that they don't have that high of a DPS affecting them now. Rakan, Maokai, and Ahri all unable to get that kill onto Lissandra, and you know, with those ultimate cooldowns being down, it opens up a window for PGG's bot lane to play super aggressively and really pressure this turret and these plates.
Absolutely, and it's a good timing, right, for them to go for the plates and potentially get a reset. If not, then get themselves primed and ready to go for their second Drake of the game. So they will find their very first plate. They're going to be very happy with that. Bear in mind that Shernfire has also got the Herald in his back pocket, so if a thing were to go awry, they can certainly look to try and punish even further than just a plate and maybe 2 that they're searching for right here. Both junglers, though, are hovering in the bot lane.
Yeah, no surprises there. I'd be very shocked if this Herald ends up going anywhere besides bot lane in a game with Violet here. But we can see Shernfire already playing very heavily towards this bot side, making sure Violet can do whatever. There's a bit of training going on. Chomper's on.
There's no wall, but the Sapper is enough to try and make sure they can find who they're after. Aiko going to force himself to run away with the Ghost. And he's going to be out A-OK, but it is an instant summoning of the Herald. It is a forced rotation, really, of multiple members to come and try and make this one an even affair. And what was 1 plate suddenly becomes nearly 4, and you are now feeling a lot happier that this Jinx has a commanding lead, not only in plates, but in CS2.
Yeah, absolutely. Jinx sitting very pretty at the moment, and this is the lead in bot lane, and Ground Zero having to respond means that PGG are free to go and take the second dragon of the game, going to be an Infernal. Perhaps Skimmy, Ground Zero aren't happy to give this, though.
What can they do to try and answer back this one? Ground Zero coming in from a pinch. There is the route onto 2. Charm lands. They find their pick and they get their kill. That's what you want to see. Bulldog jumps in. Oh no, he's died as he's gone for the jump for the shield to try and keep his team topped up and healthy. Dong has at least got 1 with a frozen clone, but they traded 1 apiece and the dragon still stands.
Yeah, it was a good pick off onto Shernfire, who didn't have time to get his ultimate off to prevent any of that damage coming through, but ultimately, like you said, Bulldog getting a bit too confident stepping forwards and ultimately ends up going down. So it is a 1-for-1. Dragon denied, though, so not too bad from the side of Ground Zero. As we get a look again, we can see Emphas crucially has the spellbook cleanse, meaning this Lissandra ultimate is basically doing nothing. He's able to get out quite quickly, land the charm, and find it on to Shernfire, who's taken down instantly. I don't think the Zeri ult actually connects onto anyone. So Aiko not able to get that passive and really take over the fight how he would want to, and ultimately both teams just going to accept their losses and walk away.
Yeah, it fizzles that before it truly really started, didn't it, right? It was just an instant burst of effect and get that 1 kill and get yourself back out. They've denied that prize, they've denied that potential of Pentanet ballooning their snowballed lead. Herald plates, CS and the Dragon certainly would have been a juicy way for them to start things off, but they're going to return right back. Hasn't deterred them. Cases though, what do we have available? Because there's no ultimate but the Crescent Guard for Pentanet.
Crescent Guard, stopwatch available for the Lissandra too, so there's a lot of survivability coming out from Dongi, who's also switched to that heal, and ultimately Ground Zero going to say, as Zeri ultimate down, our Ahri ult just came back up, we don't feel strong enough to take this right now, and you know, looking at the Kraken Slayer in Vard's inventory, I would say that is the smart decision.
For sure, yeah, you don't want to go into the Jinx when it's that strong this early on, but
Okay.
Aiko gets aggressive, they jump on in, they land and charm the wild growths on his head, but then comes the root, he's got no way out of this one, the cleanse is down, he can't hit a flash, but he's locked in place. Foreigner now is a sitting duck, and they're going to share it 1 apiece in the bot lane here for Ground Zero.
And this is what we wanted to see from Ground Zero. They bring that jungler down, they get the explosive engage on towards Violet, not able to use that flash and take him out, and suddenly, you know, Violet was so far ahead, up so much gold, but the CS lead's equalized. The kill is in favor of Aiko now, and ultimately what was a very one-sided game is looking like it's getting back into the realm of winnable for Ground Zero.
Certainly is. It's a really promising start, and it's a great way for us to explore the conversation, return to what was, I think bot lane's just going to be so free, 50, 100 CS. It all starts, as you say, with just a cute interaction of junglers here, let's go.
Yeah, and Violet not flashing the initial grand entrance means he's essentially dead to rights. Even if he does flash after that, the Maokai ultimate is going to stop him and make sure he goes down in the end. But ultimately, Ground Zero finally, it took a while to get the Maokai down towards his bot lane, but it's just that easy. It's plug and play, have all that CC that Violet can't really do anything about it, and you need to get this area ahead. Remember, we were talking about earlier in Champion Select, she is really your only damage, so she needs to stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
And right now, she's up there with Violet in the gold graph.
It's huge when you consider the power discrepancy as well, going into that when he didn't have the Trinity Force available to him. He was going into a Cracker Slayer, Jinx gets the kill, returns back to base and says, now we are even. I feel strong. There's no concern anymore here. So what a moment to sort of stamp your authority and say, show a little bit more, respect towards me. And obviously what this champ can do at the same time. Level 11 coming across the board now for a lot of our solo laners. Second point into your ultimate. Second chance now to feel a little bit more aggressive as to how do we square up for this next objective. And
to mention that top lane just briefly, checking in with the gold, Chippy was actually the one who came out on top of that, right? Up a comfortable 15 CS, able to pressure the turret as well into that Sion matchup. We know that Chippy's, whilst there's not going to be too much action towards that top lane in the early game, as it comes to the late game, he's going to be such a menace on that Gwen and someone who Ground Zero definitely can't forget about as the game goes on.
Split fight, as you can see right now, both top laners wrestling for control and entrance inside the Herald pit. Everybody else, though, locked in the mid lane, battling for control to roam, rotate, and get themselves in a better position to set up and prevent their opposition from getting this objective. To start up here, with Pentanet dropping the Herald down to 50%. And Tron's deciding, do I go or do I not? The call is, let's make it happen. Nature's Grasp to kick it all off. And Violet is the target, Violet is the focus, and Violet is gone. 2 kills, a little bit too easy. Yes, you can have your Heralds, but it's not even being claimed right now. Shernfire says, before I die, this will be my final breath. He flashes out with the final tick of that Crescent Guard ramping. Tron says, nah, you're not allowed to survive. Knocks him up, but does he have it still within him to run him down? Is he going to turret dive? Oh, just misses.
But a beautiful fight from the side of Ground Zero. I thought that Cyanide was going completely wide, finds Violet and instantly Emphas. Everyone piles on top of him as we get a replay here. The big Maokai ultimate coming out, really separating the fight. Look at the Cyanide onto Violet, finds him immediately. Emphas, Gooby, all getting on top of him. Even Aiko able to dash the wall and reposition in a moment's notice. Finding 2 quick kills. The Herald doesn't go in their favor. But ultimately, you'd have to say you're happy with that if you're Ground Zero.
100%. I mean, double Summoner's Burden on the Jinx and still not able to try and outplay that is a massive win for them. And the concern we rose was like, well, how do you get past the Gwen and the Jinx, rather the Gwen and the Zen? A non-factor for them, wasn't it? It was just, we want the Jinx, we'll go at him.
Yeah, they did that perfectly. They completely flipped the position in that fight, right? Going from the bottom side of the river to everybody essentially jumping that wall, going towards that top side. And now Zeri commanding gold lead up ahead of Violet, sitting on that Zeal. This build from Zeri, once she gets that Runans, once she gets that Titanic, not only is she pumping out an insane amount of damage, but she's so incredibly tanky as well. She's almost a bruiser in her own right.
Yeah.
And with 40 seconds till this next dragon, Ground Zero sitting quite pretty.
Chan's already demonstrated how strong it is when you hit that breakpoint of those 3 items online. Nearly got a pentakill with it, right? It was just farming up a quad, just pinging off damage left, right, and center with all those bolts connecting and colliding in a clumped-up team fight. That is certainly something to be excited for. And that massive gold lead that Pentanet have is quickly dwindling away. In go Ground Zero one more time. Bulldog with the quickness, doesn't find what he's after. Rocket comes through, drops them low. Lightning Crash stacked onto 2 though, and they still find what they need. It looked dicey for a second there for Ground Zero, but they peel it back. They bide their time, they play off their cooldowns, and they re-engage.
Tron might have a secondary job as an F1 driver. He's been piloting this Silent Ult to perfection, finding the 2-man on the Xin and Lissandra as soon as the invulnerability ends. And straight up, it's the second fight in a row, they just land this CC onto AoE damage combo. And yes, there's all this invulnerability. Doesn't help if you don't get a chance to use it.
It's too much to bear. I mean, you can see it always starts with the fact of Bulldog as well as Gooby just starting it up, running it down, and saying, what do you do now?
And that's Sion ult right there. The second the Crescent Guard expires, Sion is there immediately. It starts off with a bad positioning from Foreigner, getting a bit greedy, having to use the flash. He ends up going down in the end anyway. And Tron heads up, TPs, matches topside, so they don't even get anything on the back end. Ground Zero playing this macro incredibly well.
Looking clean. That's what, 3 back-to-back victories now in these skirmishes, and that's completely flipped what was a bit of a deficit, pouring away from him into a commanding lead now. Aiko firmly at the top with a commanding lead of his own is 3-0-3 in a very comfortable spot now as the Zeri, and is definitely putting Violet on notice.
Yeah, and it hasn't really felt particularly hard any of these fights either, right? It's very much felt like they are just landing their CC combos easier. They're getting them, and Shernfire potentially in a bit of a rough spot. Blastcone's taken.
He's in a bit of a rough spot, absolutely. Ice getting across the wall as Aiko coming in to make it absolutely happen. Another kill found, as easy as that. Shernfire falls on down for his 3rd of the game. It's a rough time. You go for a bit of an engage, a bit of an invade more than anything, and they just punish you for it.
But like, why? Like, that's the ultimate question is, there's nothing really up. Sure, you could argue that Baron's in a minute and a half, but neither team in this current game state is really going to be, trying to sneak that at 20 minutes. So just gives over a free kill, and in a game like this, you cannot afford this Zeri to get any more kills because she is just going to blow the game wide open.
100%. Zeri now completing that second item. There is the Runon's Hurricane, as you mentioned. That is 2 of the 3 components to make this champion absurdly broken as it stands right now in the meta of things. What is the response right now if you're a Pentanet fan, if you're thinking, hang on a minute, this is not the way the script was meant to go out? Well, the Ardent Sensor is there for the Jinx. Obviously, the Gwen can get a bit of value out of that as well. If we do gear up for a massive Baron fight, then there is potential hope for them to flip it.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. This game is by no means completely out of PGG's hands. The gold lead's only 1,500 gold. To me, the real focus is the way that they're approaching these fights. So far, they've been very much one-dimensional, focused on only coming from the front, and that enables this Scion to get so much value and Zeri to just hit from the back. They need to have someone like the Gwen, someone like the Alessandra pressuring a flank so that Zeri feels the need to get out of her comfort zone and can't just hit straight forward. So honestly, PGG solo lanes have shown that they can do it before. They're going to need to replicate that in this game.
Need to find a moment to really showcase what they can do and almost dismiss the critics, almost dismiss some of the concerns we rose already before going into this one. Nature's Grass starts it off again, and it's Foreigner caught out of position. It's picture perfect. Another kill for the Zeri, now halfway towards 10. In comes Tron. Chan just misses as they set up a siege in mid lane.
The claws coming through, not going to be going through to much. The turret protection is on. Tron might be going down.
Tron's in a lot of trouble right now. The zap connects and they find what they need. Violet's first kill of the game. He flashes forward. He's feeling good. But was that flash a mistake? It was! Instant punish from Aiko. Give him the double. Deny the triple as Bulldog takes that one away. But Pentanet thought they got it.
I would be feeling very awkward right now if I was Violet after talking all that trash in the interview, just to be getting rinsed right now by this Zeri. And, ultimately, PGG think they're going to be able to get something back onto ground zero because they're taking so long to get that turret. But Dongy flashes forward. I think he might have not realized that he didn't have ult. He just flashes forwards seemingly for no reason, giving the kill over. And then Aiko, he's so tanky already, just able to stand and deliver as we get a look at this play once again. It starts with a pick onto Foreigner, taken down in a blink of an eye. You can't be standing that far forward as a Lulu. And ultimately, Cleanse burnt, but here comes Tron.
Yeah, just Tron's going to rock up right place, right time. You're thinking, all right, the isolated kill onto Tron underneath the tower. That's enough. That's our go button, but proved to be their downfall.
Yeah, and here we go. We can see it again. They get the initial reset, feeling good onto Tron. But keep in mind how low Violet is, and we see again, Dongy flashes forward. I don't really know for what. I assume he must have thought he had ultimate, but that baits the rest of PGG to go in, and then it's a clean 3 kills. It's a mid-turret. It's blowing this game further and further open as Aiko, 230 CS, 7-0, 700 gold bounty. This bot lane from ground zero is delivering.
It certainly is, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. Wherever Aiko goes, the rest of the team are there to serve him up another kill. Shernfire in trouble. He has been all game. It's awkward on 2 different fronts, really, isn't it? We had the shit talk coming out to say that, I've never seen Aiko carry. He's doing just that. And Gooby says, I'm going to gap Shernfire, and he's 0-5.
He absolutely is gapping him. Every single time he goes to farm a camp, every single time he goes to place a ward, it feels like ground zero have his number. And it really begs the question, 15-3 in kill skimmy. I don't think this is how anyone expected this game to go.
Absolutely not. I mean, we even looked at the Dare fan vote. It was like something like 90 to 10% in favor of PGG sweeping this one through. But Ground Zero have come in, and we had, a bit of hope that, Ground Zero have the potential. They can cause upsets, but you're thinking at PGG, their roster, they should be a little bit too stacked to compete with this. But right now, they are completely defying those expectations and saying the meta works as well as it does for you, but for us, we can showcase what we can do too.
Yeah, and we talked about their composition. We mentioned that one of the downfalls was a lack of damage if you got to this point in the game and Zeri wasn't ahead, but you're looking at her now, you're looking at these items. Even the Maokai with the Demonic Embrace, Ari well ahead of the curve as well, going to be able to dish out damage, and realistically they've got no worries there. They're just a tanky, CC heavy team composition that can rely on this Zeri, and realistically the only way I see this going in the favor of PGG is if someone like Dongi can get a flank, can cast an ultimate onto Aiko, but apart from that he'll just be too slippery to lock down.
If they can shut down the Zeri, then there is a potential world in which PGG can claw this one back, right? Because there's no forgetting that the Gwen is still strong. Imperial Mandate is now there for Dongi as well. They've got all the tools, all the buffs, all the items to make sure that their two major AD threats can start to pop off. But it brings it back to the conversation of, okay, if Grand Zero do have the easiest start, they are smashing it like they are so far, what happens 30, 35 minutes onwards if it does go that late?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's going to be on PGG to try to make sure they're not slipping up around this Baron, because if one person dies, it is really going to be an easy turn for Grand Zero towards this Baron. That being said, you did mention the Gwen, and this feels very much like a top lane experience game. Chippy's sitting at 10 CS per minute, 1-0-0. Presses tab, gets a bit of a jump scare, but if there is one member who can deal that damage, who can shred through these frontliners, it's him.
Has to be, absolutely. Sitting on 2 items right now with the Nash's Tooth completing a stopwatch there for use as well. Speaking of those item spikes though, Aiko has now completed the build. Basically, 3 items are done. Titanic Hydra is there. They've got a mid-Chaos as well to rub salt into the wounds of a cleanseless Zeri. You mentioned it might be as simple as saying you kill the Zeri and you go, too slippery now.
Yeah, exactly. And you look at the CC on PGG, what do they have? They have Lissandra W, Lissandra Ultimate, and Polymorph. And besides that, realistically, there's nothing. So you use that Mikhails is going to get so much value, basically eliminating any options they have to lock this Zeri down. And like you mentioned, she's already a tank. Not to mention all the protection she's got from the rest of her team.
Game on for Grand Zero then. Can they close out the game from a position like this when they were down so much gold but then clawed it back and found their win condition and have never stopped looking back from that point onwards? They're going to find themselves their 3rd turret of the game. The question is though, what does it look like with the Baron available and an Ocean Soul for them to claim in under 3 minutes?
That's absolutely right. Looking at this mid lane here, PGG feels so scared to walk up. The Maokai so effective at cutting off any mid lane escape routes if you do miss position, and PGG rightfully respecting that a death here could signal a snowball out of control. You rightly mentioned Skimmy, Ocean Drag spawning in 2 minutes. There's always that option of the Baron Dance, Dragon Soul trade. Which one do you go for? The other team will pressure it. And it looks like Aiko feeling comfortable hitting this Baron.
They're certainly doing it. Start it up. They're going to try and draw in PGG for a fight where it could go back to your point, right, of PGG dying, too many members down, and a snowball effect happens as a result. It's going to force out a TP if nothing more. Chippies has to leave the bot lane into the matchup with Tron to come in because they're just terrified.
But what a heads-up play from this young team, right? To acknowledge that, okay, all we need is the TP. The second they see that, they back off.
Yeah.
They're not worried about, you know, we need to make something of this. Just a really nice play, baiting it and playing around cooldowns. We can already see Shernfire's gone for the Trinity Force build. This Xin Zhao is paper. If he's not in his ultimate, he dies in practically less than a second against the CC and the damage that Ground Zero provides. So they're really going to need to find some creative flank here.
They certainly are. No Gore Drink and no way to try and keep yourself up a little bit longer than you would have done otherwise. No Black Cleaver either. It really is all about trying to get that one shot, and that's exactly what they're hoping for. They're all in on the glass cannon spec. It is all about Ground Zero. With the level-headedness that you've just mentioned, can they still keep their calm? Can they look to try and close this one out? This really is their game to lose now.
It absolutely is, and we can see the Baron Dance started once again, potentially playing with the sides of PGG. Ground Zero can take this forever. They've got a Maokai. Here goes Bulldog.
Bulldog's gone in. He's found through with the charm. Jumping across the wall is Aiko. Hits the lightning crash onto multiple members. He's legendary. Has been all game long. Nobody can touch him. Not even a scratch. In they go, hunting for more. Top laners have now arrived. The rocket goes out. They find the Maokai. Gooby's KDA has now been ruined. The Gwen is coming online. Gwen's found 2. Violet's running away. Run down by Aiko. Aiko's getting excited. Aiko with a shutdown. Aiko hunting for more. It's Chippies and a dream. Can he deny the party? Can he be the upset factor? They say too strong. Let's back away.
This Ground Zero team, where have they come from? The discipline with that turn. Immediately, he's on a ward. Aiko is going to get stopped.
Oh, he's so lucky that there is a champion that can do things like that. Otherwise, he was done for.
He will luckily have the Zeri ability to dash over that wall, but the discipline to bait that turn, as we see it once again. They're playing with PGG over the wall, and it's ultimately Bulldog who pulls the trigger, using the ultimate, flashing forward onto 2 members. Aiko hopping the wall with Emphas. It's so in sync, it's so cohesive, and it just makes sense. Ultimately, Chippy's on the back end, does his best to try to save the fight, but even then, Aiko is just reaping havoc through this backline.
Certainly is. It's a battle of who can do the more damage, or who can sustain themselves in this fight for longer. With the amount of mobility that the Gwen and the Zeri both have, it was really running them down and seeing who can stand a little bit longer around. I mean, very fortunate though is Aiko not to being picked off on this ward reset.
Yeah, absolutely. If, you know, potentially Gwen was able to get any Q stacks anywhere, that could have just been a simple QE into death, but it is going to be Aiko and the side of Ground Zero picking up that Ocean Soul. And if you thought it was hard to kill this Silent, to kill this Maokai originally, it's only gone that much harder.
So much harder now. In jumps Emphas, completely baiting everybody into a tight corridor. This is not where they want to fight. Shernfire receives the wild growth, but he's paper and gets absolutely shredded. Shutdown found here by Violet. That's what you need. You need to get some gold onto this Jinx. As strong as the Zeri is, the Jinx needs to match it. It's the late game. This is when you're starting to hope for the AD carries to truly run riot.
AD carries running riot, but to me it's Chippy's who's coming online, buying so much space with the Hallowed Mist and able to throw that needlework through multiple members like you mentioned in that corridor. It's really the ideal environment for a Gwen to be able to fight. So to me it's a question of, can Chippy's hold on for long enough in these fights? As we take a look again, it starts off with the Maokai ultimate from long distance. Rakan pressuring onto Shernfire, who is just blown up instantly. But look at Chippy's, look at the damage he's able to do in the space he's able to create, zoning off essentially 4 members, allowing his team time to get onto the Rakan on the bot side and give Jinx that shutdown.
Certainly favours both teams, really. I mean, you can talk about the the cleaving potential of the Zeri in those tight corridors, as well as the Gwen, who comes out ahead, who can do the more DPS in that concentrated amount of burst. But ultimately, it is to be Emphas starting things off with a lovely little Spirit Rush, baits them into a fight, dashes away and says, "You're stuck here now."
Yeah, Emphas really showing his experience on Ari's playing off, right? Being that facilitator, and it's credit to Ground Zero's support mid-jungle, who have just worked together in every single fight to make sure their engages are clean, well-timed, layering that CC effectively to find those initial picks. As potentially Skirmish once again, Shernfire.
Not sure if he's even worth gold at this point in the game, Max, quite honestly. 0-7. Real rough affair for Shernfire here. So used to snowballing, so used to being the one that can charge in and be the playmaker. Finds himself in a rather uncomfortable, unfamiliar position, quite honestly.
He really is just a body at this stage, right? Get into as many members as you can, throw that ultimate out, try to create space for your other carries to do something. It really has been an unfortunate, uncharacteristic game for him, just being picked off at almost every opportunity. As we see once again, turning towards this Baron. They did such a good job, Ground Zero, of turning once before. Can they do it again?
Who are you more concerned for if this was to go late? Because obviously Aiko's got the GA now. You're starting to feel pretty confident that it's literally 0 world in which he dies, but more and more time afforded to Chippy. He's going to start to match that power.
More and more time goes on. I actually favor PGG, to be honest. Despite this Ocean Soul, and despite, like you mentioned, Aiko sitting on a very comfortable 4 items, Violet and Chippy's are going to continue to scale, and this Gwen's damage late game is no joke, especially with the way Zeri has to play in terms of her range. She very much has to play into where Gwen is able to hit her, but this Baron's dropping below 50% HP, Skimmy. I think we've got a fight on our hands.
Yeah, it's looking like it, but once again, another forced out teleport, and that's enough for them to disengage away from the Baron. Tron wasn't going to be concerned anytime soon. Didn't even have the TP of his own. He was just strolling into the river and ready for them to start things up again. Just kind of bait them into an unfair fight that favors them more.
TP going to come through from Dongy. We need to see where this is going. It's going on a front on. Fights on Skimmy.
Tron is on. He goes in for the ultimate. Flash across instantly is Gooby. Crescent Guard goes out, buying time. Wild Growth is there. Knock up, damage, rocket explosion. Chippy finds 1, finds 2. Violet's in there as well. That's what you need. These carries that we literally just mentioned, you couldn't afford to give them an inch. Take it all in the late game.
And that's 3 dead instantly, Skimmy. They can turn towards this Baron themselves. They can turn this game on its head. And it felt like Ground Zero just got a bit too eager. Tron going forward a bit too far from his team. The engage wasn't able to come through as cleanly as Aiko. He does not want to give this Baron over.
He's going to square this one up. He doesn't have Lightning Crash, but he has Flash. He might look to try and be a playmaker, look to try and do it all on his own. Zap just barely misses.
So
as
low.
the Baron gets lower and lower. They've got a jungler. They've got a smite. There's no way you lose to this one. Surely you get the Baron and you run the hell away.
Will they be able to get out? That is a question. Dongy going to use the Flash, and it is going to be all 5 members of PGG getting out, and Skimmy what was once such a commanding game, as we take a look at this fight again, look at Tron's positioning. He's just too far up. No one's able to help him. And Chippy's, again, I said it last fight, I'll say it this fight again, dashing forward, creating all the space he needs to. Only Bulldog is hitting onto Violet here.
And look at Chippy's HP, untouched, untouchable. Can do no wrong, completely flanks off their attention where it's has put all the CC onto the Jinx. Did you forget about me, guys? Snip, snip.
That's absolutely right. The front to backs, you know, even with this Ocean Soul, the true damage that's coming out of this Gwen, who's now got a Rift Maker, a Void Staff, and building towards that Rabadon's is uncanny. And that Jinx LDR completed as well. So whilst Aiko is 10-0, I would say that he's not even the heaviest damage dealing champion in this game right now.
Yeah, look at that. Chippy's not too far behind considering the scoreline. It's kind of crazy to think double the kills, but not double the amount of gold or anywhere near, right? It's so dead even. That's obviously going to be represented also by the overall amount of gold, where actually PGG do take the lead again. At this point, though, it feels like the gold lead really is a non-factor. It's these fights, it's these respawn timers, it's the Zelda Dragon.
Absolutely, Elder in 40 seconds. A single slip up here could mean the game. Keep an eye on Aiko. Has that flash available, has that ultimate available. Really all the tools he needs to keep himself safe. If Ground Zero can continue playing like they did before, just waiting a bit more, not getting antsy to make something happen, let PGG come to you and get a fight where the positioning is favorable, they can certainly still win. This game really, though, Skimmy, could go either way.
It's on a knife's edge, isn't it, right now, Max? It's crazy, as Baron buff is still available for another whole minute. It's going to spawn really nicely with when Elder is active. Question becomes, what is the move here for Pentanet? Do they respect the Elder and look to try and hold that one out? Or do they try and shove through these waves and get a little bit of value with the Baron? That is what I'm looking for right now, as the Elder is engaged. It's dropping so quickly. You're looking to see where the fight all starts out. It's the Nature's Grasp. It's the massive backline disengage onto Bulldog. They're looking to try and look to these targets down as quickly as they can. Tron's found Dongy. Dongy is dead. Tron flashing away. Rocket goes out. Not enough to execute. Not enough to kill. No reset. Wild Grip is on his head, but Chippy's is dominating. Chippy's is in. Violet's found another. The late game of PGG starting to come online. But an Aiko says, I've had enough. It's time for a Zeri moment. There's two. Chippy's finds another himself. It's the battle between the carries. It's an absolute anime fight as they try to take each other down.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, Skimmy, it's the HP bars that are going to favor PGG. They're able to get the inside track on mid lane, and Gwen can solo this Elder Dragon if she chooses.
Did you see how much damage Chippy did in that fight? 10k! Crazy.
And it felt like that was going to go in the favor of Ground Zero. Tron's positioning, whilst it was up, he was able to get his teammates with him to get those initial picks. But it was the needlework from Chippy's that ultimately sealed the deal. As we take a look at this fight again, initial knock-up is good. They're getting damage onto Dongy. Violet and Foreigner are zoned. And meanwhile, look in the backline, Shernfire just trying to survive for as long as he can. Tron lives on a sliver, like you mentioned, but it's this needlework. If this needlework doesn't kill Tron can base in TP, he can come back at full HP Scion, and they can just do this Elder Dragon. But the fact that he goes down, and then Aiko just playing for a montage here.
Absolutely. The HP bar is so perfectly primed for both of these carries to try and explode into life and be to show where you don't need a carry, you don't need a front line. It's literally, you have more damage, you will die in a single global. As we return to that scene of the crime and do it all again.
We absolutely do this time. No flash Aiko, no flash Violet, both 80 carries, lacking that crucial summoner spell. No vision on this Elder, and Skimmy, this one gets burnt down incredibly quickly.
Too quick to really mess around with. Ghost is available for both the Gwen and the Zeri. Will that be the factor? Will that be the difference? In jumps Memphis, finds a charm onto Gwen. Instant headbutt coming out here from the Maokai. Looking to try and lock him down with Tron. In jumps Bulldog. Looking to try and take this backline down. Violet receives the wild growth. He gets charm. He cleanses out. He gets shredded. He's gone. Memphis found two. He starts it off. He finishes it off. As Zeri bursts on down. And they claim an ace.
That's the ace for Ground Zero, and it took them so many tries, but ultimately they get the fight they want. They get PGG to walk into them, lay that CC perfectly. Aiko is untouched, and Skimmy, screw the Dragon, screw the Baron, they're going to end the game.
End the game, absolutely. 40-second respawns. It's just too much to try and really respond to. The only casualty they had in that ace was Bulldog, but he did his job. He did what he set out to do. They had too much damage, they had too much control. The CC perfectly layered to isolate their prey and to claim victory. And what I want to say is probably our longest game to date here in Split 2.
Absolutely, and if you are Aiko, you are feeling vindicated after this performance. To be trash talked like that in the interview and come back 14-0-10, single-handedly winning the game for your team. You have to feel good, and it's smiles all around for the side of Ground Zero.
Oh, you love to see a clip play out where it didn't age too well. One where you can say in game number 2, hey guys, that's what I said during my interview. Don't want to talk about it, don't want to think about it, don't want to get memed for it, but it is what it is. And ultimately, Ground Zero have proven once again to be that dark horse factor where they can take big games away from some of these big teams.
They can. I am so happy for Ground Zero, right? Obviously, all of our predictions were for Pentanet, but I'm all for an underdog story. But they weren't really that far down when it comes to underdogs. And the team fight, every time one broke out, Destiny and I in the green room were like, bro, everything was like just by an inch, and it gave them so much in this game.
Every single fight was a banger. Either it was Chippies trying the 1v9 or it was Aiko trying the 1v9. And there was so many good engages, back and forth. Bulldog looking for 3-mans, Dongy looking for flanks. It was absolutely wild games. Lots of team fights. And in this team fight in particular, Aiko really just shows how balanced Zeri is. Look at that damage, ladies and gentlemen. This is a Riot Games special. Thank God she is getting nerfed next patch, but wow, what a clinic.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal show. Take advantage of it while you can. I do have to say I'm very impressed with the engages and disengages from Ground Zero. Not every team fight did go in their favor. Obviously, there was this moment. This one particularly where I was like, all right, maybe this game is going to go Pentanet's favor, and they've missed the timings of what Zeri can do and what the team needs to be able to do.
Yeah, when Pentanet got the Baron and they were trying to restabilize the map, and they did neutralize the gold lead, and they just wanted to play front-to-back team fight like the one on your screen right now. But unfortunately, Zeri just does these things. Aiko, I mean, Violet said he couldn't carry a game, but my God, he definitely did this one.
He had something to prove. He had a vendetta against us. He was like, oh man, I watched that interview, and let me tell you, I can carry. Okay, thank you very much. I can carry. I can 1v9 out here. On top of that, though, anything that stands out when we look towards the item builds, oh, Gooby! Next time.
Yes, Jason.
Let's go. Now, when we ask him what does he have over Shernfire, it's not just good hair. It's the victory poses, too.
Yep, those biceps looking fantastic in that. But looking at the damage graphs, poor Chippies putting out 45,000 damage and still going down with the defeat. But ultimately, what stood out for me was this Ground Zero just played so well as a unit, right? Individually, we know that on paper, theoretically, they should be getting beaten by PGG, but every single team fight they had, everyone knew their role to perfection, everyone was executing on it, and that just made it so easy for Aiko to make space and carry the game like he did.
You guys gave me confidence that Chippies, with a comfort champ on red side, would do it.
He was so close to doing it.
He nearly did it.
I'm just saying, it wasn't though. Nearly isn't good enough. Nearly isn't a win.
Were you paying Shernfire that game?
I will say, though, I'm really impressed in the manner in which Ground Zero closed out that game, because I feel like there's a lot of times when you can get a massive lead and be the massive underdog in a situation like that, lose your head a little bit and say, we have a 10-0 Zeri, let's just fight. But they were always fighting over a specific objective, be it the Baron, be it the Elder, and baiting in Pentanet to take a fight they didn't want, and then who would pull the trigger? It'd be Bulldog, it'd be Emphis, it would be any of these members going, all right, we found an isolated member, they're so terrified of us bursting down this objective, we gotta go. It was beautiful.
Yeah, you could play that bait. Like, you weren't on a timer personally. It was your opponent who was always on that timer. But you spoke about the Baron, them fighting around it. We do have a replay that Destiny is going to give us a little bit more insight as to why it went the way it did.
So I think this was the biggest turning point for Pentanet and why they started to get behind. When you have flankers like Lissandra and Gwen, they generally want to be on a flank and try pincer. But the problem is that they have nobody that can really tank the Scion ultimate. And Tron just went straight for it, hit Jinx, Maokai ultimate followed, and they just one-shot Violet. Nobody was there to block it. They were torn in between, oh, should we finish the Herald? Oh, should we play for the team fight? And they didn't really pick or choose one or the other, so they just got wiped.
When you see a team fight play out like this, for you, like let's say you're on Pentanet's side, what is the very quick decision that needs to be made in-game looking at future fights that are going to occur? I
mean, in that moment, they just had to say, look, we've already committed for the Herald, just go into the pit. Just Xin Zhao, just block the Scion up, pop ult, try not to get one-shot, because that's their only hope to win this fight.
Okay, all right, interesting. There is also a second replay that you wanted to look at too. A second moment in this game number 1 that stood out.
Yep, so this was another team fight where Ground Zero were willing to pull the trigger onto Foreigner that had to flash over the wall, but Pentanet thought that they kind of overextended, but in reality, they didn't. Tron hits another good Cyanold. He had a great game. And PGG were just not good at choosing their fights this game. Chippies wasn't there, Violet wasn't there. The two strongest carries on the team weren't there, and they weren't able to hit, and it happened both scenarios, and Ground Zero, they punished them immediately for it.
I want to say it felt like for the first 20, 22 minutes, Gooby's ult was like consistently on cooldown. I don't know if that ult was ever off cooldown. He was just standing there like smashing the ult button.
It's time to go. I mean, basically, he was just telling his team, like, ran in all up, like, all right, boys, we just roll out like Autobots or something.
It's off cooldown in 10 seconds. Everyone gather around.
We're fighting. We're sending it. We're going. Kill them.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was great. I think that was something that they centered themselves around well, and I don't know who's making that calls, right? That's something I would really like to know, but maybe that's what gave the cohesion that you were kind of surprised about, Max?
Yeah, to me, this speaks to being a very well-coached team, because I think that they're set up around Dragons. It was very clear that they were saying, okay, this is the spot we're going to turn at. This is how we're going to turn. Everyone felt like they knew that, and it wasn't getting anyone caught off on surprise, right? So to me, it felt like a very well-oiled machine. And to your credit, yeah, Tron and Gooby both setting up those flanks nicely.
Yeah, I feel like if it ends up being a 2-0, it's going to be a fight between those two of who gets MVP. That's what I'm saying. I really liked Gooby, but I'm also
Not Aiko?
biased. Yeah,
He
but
went
like,
14-0.
yeah, but you know, that's what Karen does.
She's
You
like-
know? That's what
she's
ADC does.
cringe 80 carry meta. Oh, yeah.
She
Did he
loves,
give me-
she
did he
loves
give me a
Violet interviews.
Gooby?
She's a Violet fan.
I was gonna say, did he give me a Gooby interview though? You know,
That's fair
Yeah.
enough.
I'm a little bit biased on that too. You know, that is already put him on a little bit more of a pedestal than everyone else on that team. But you're right. Everyone played their parts, and it came together fantastic. We do look at PGG now. They're all going to be playing on red side again. We talked about the Chippies factor, but is there anything else that needs to come out, that little extra wow factor on the red side that you're like, they really missed it this game and it needs to come out in game 2?
I think you just go back to what they've done before, which is literally how they responded last week as well, where it was like, okay, Dongy has to go on a hard wave clear champion so we can rotate very quickly. Shernfire, I don't think Xin is necessarily the wrong kind of pick, because it can certainly snowball and do what they've done in the past, right, which is target a lane, gank it relentlessly, and sort of snowball from that point. But I think it's really a case of make sure that Dongy can leave lane a lot quicker. A champion like, you know, these Gragas's, Lysandra in this game, they just can't do that early, right? You're thinking of Unique's potentially like Rumbles and whatnot, right? If you're playing like a tanky like Cassante, Gragas in the mid lane, all these kind of champions that you just wave clear, you're gone. Hey, Shernfire, where are we dropping? Like, where are we going to next?
That does make sense, because we were talking about the downsides of Zeri. Like, she is weaker in that earlier part of the game, certain items, and it felt like they never capitalized on that. There was nothing that happened in the early, let's say 8 to 10 minute mark where you're like, oh man, that's it, Aiko's game's done.
Yeah, Shern got a good gank off on top, and then he translated the mid and top priority into the first Herald, and they did drop it bot. They actually did get a lead in the early game, but they just didn't. They just stuffed up the second Herald really badly. That was just not a good setup from them. I think coming into the second game, I think they should put Shern on engage. Obviously, Foreigner is kind of new to the support role, and I think when Shern can kind of lead the charge, walk straight in, I think it'll make their games a lot easier to execute.
And I think as well, what really helped this Zeri sort of have the game that she did was the lack of CC on the side of PGG, right? Literally
true.
only
Very
Lysandra
true.
ultimate that was pressuring her. So,
Yeah.
and a Mikhail's built as well, right? So literally nothing able to land. Aiko's just going to be able to kite forever.
Yep.
And even if you have that Gwen, she's never going to be able to stick to someone like Zeri. So if you're going to let that through, because you are playing against blue side again, make sure you've got something prepared, whether that's a Nautilus or something more reliable to lock it down.
It's like, what is the most annoying part about Zeri, and how do we ensure that that doesn't get to happen for her? And yeah, it is that mobility, that escapability that she does have. But enough talking about the game. I want to hear from you guys, from our fans, because we gave you a question at the start of today, and that was your favorite item after the Midscope rework. We've had a varying range of degrees, varying range of answers, and some Max love to roast. We'll see if he's going to roast this one, though, from Deadly G. Rageblade as a mythic is pretty interesting.
I think that's cool. I think it's a valid
Yeah, all right,
take.
that's right. We love that idea.
Yeah, no, I think it being a mythic, it has its very own unique playstyle in the fact that it enables so many of these on-hit champions, and I think it's niche enough to be its own mythic.
Yeah, all right. Any other from the fans? Any other great items that they like? Trinity Force. Happy Kindred player noises. Anyone else a big Kindred fan?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I like Triforce as well. I mean, Triforce is a good item. I agree with you, Mordred. Great item.
All right. Thank you so much for that one, Mordred. Where else has Triforce sort of helped out outside of just Kindred players like Mordred?
Camille?
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Ezreal
It was
is
a trick question.
prolific abuser
Everywhere.
of Trinity Force.
Helps that freak.
True. Tons of damage.
Yeah, tons and
Tons of damage.
Tons of it. Another from the fans.
Based. Love your
Don't give
answer.
them more.
Hey,
Don't
amen.
give them more.
That's another believer.
Static Shiv with AP scaling is so satisfying, especially the stuff you can pull off in combination with Lichbane as Vega or Zoe.
Hey, it's what I've been preaching. True plus
That-
W plus right.
Yeah, I had to just make sure that you counteracted all the L plus ratio plus didn't ask. True plus
True plus W plus. I did want to ask hashtag LCO on Twitter. Let
hashtag
us know.
LCO on Twitter. You could be featured on broadcast. You could have your say, but for now, it's a break. We've got our best of 2 game 2 coming up between Pentanet and Ground Zero.
Certainly something to be excited for.
far
That
enough.
massive gold lead that Pentanet have is quickly dwindling away. In goes Ground Zero one more time. Bulldog with the quickness, doesn't find what he's after. Rocket comes through, drops them low. Lightning crash stacks onto 2 though, and they still find what they need. It looked dicey for a second there for Ground Zero, but they peel it back. They bide their time, they play off their cooldowns, and they re-engage.
Tron might have
We can keep that between us. We only vibe with certified tired of non-believers. Dug buried hopes up in toast, so-called underachievers. They need to know how sick they are, so we tell them go fever. Don't flow slow with it either. Show those folks how we heat up. Mercury rose in a meter. Fire we admire. Those chose grow. Can we meet up? We can all go higher. No more woes trying to creep up. Sold out shows to the speaker. Just so y'all know if you need us, I'll pull you close if you reach us. No longer worry about if we can keep up. Now we in our lane, there's no need for speed bumps. All gas, no brakes, we can't learn enough. Spark thoughts until you leave us. That's love for real. Different flow. Why the same? Stay the same. We different though. We make the whole wave jump. The water pumps out a different flow. Just being yourself. It's not that difficult. Ooh. Sheesh. Whatever I want, I can have it. I'm exceptional, way above average. Obstacles don't stand a chance. You against me, better make up the plan. Yeah. It doesn't matter what nobody tells you. Believe in yourself, power comes from within. I know they counted you out and they left you for dead. It don't matter, you still gonna win. It doesn't matter when nobody tells you. Believe in yourself, power comes from within. If they counted you out, it doesn't matter, you're still gonna win. Playtime is over, now finish them. 100%, that's the minimum. I don't listen to them, they some liars. Before you beat the odds, you gotta be put through the fire. Yeah, so I take on every challenge. Life is full of ups and downs, you gotta find a balance. When you're down and out, you find out who really got your back. Listen to me closer, cause you know I'm spitting facts. Yeah, we are not the same, I'm a Wolverine. You thought I was dead, just recovering. I was just a bad hand, I just play my cards. But all I need is one shot, like a shooting star. Running out of time, gotta take a stand. I listened to you long enough, now here I'm out of man. Failure's not an option. Throw away your red light, cause I'm not stopping. Yeah, it doesn't matter what nobody tells you. Believe in yourself, power comes from within. I know they counted you out and they left you for dead. It don't matter, you still gonna win. It doesn't matter when nobody tells you. Believe in yourself, power comes from within.
Second, they'll find a second. Chippies is on an absolute tear right now.
Pentanet versus Ground Zero. We got our game 2 and our best of 2, and it is going to be our last game for week 2.
Aww.
That's a lot of 2s. We're sitting in 2s. We've got 2 2s.
Do we have tutus? I'll wear one.
I didn't know where that was going. That was good. You're quick on your feet,
Hey,
Skim.
someone's got to do it.
Someone's going to be a quick thinker. And if you're a quick thinker and you might think that you're right about everything, then you could have your say for our Dare fan for in that top corner. I'm putting you on the spot. This is your time to shine, Destiny. Do it,
Yeah,
Max.
I'm doing it. I'm doing
That's
it.
it. That's it. That's the right spot right up there. Oh,
I dare
there.
you. I dare you to tell us your opinion.
I double dog dare you to drink that dare.
Dog dare you?
Yeah.
It's a-
Because you got that dog
what
in
type
it.
of dare is that? It's a
Double espresso.
double espresso.
Double espresso.
Everything's in twos and doubles.
Tell you what, mate, it's 2 intensity, absolutely. Oh, far out. Cheers, mate.
Cheers. Everything's better in two.
Now I feel ready, rejuvenated,
Yeah, you are.
energized to cast an absolute banger with 15 billion team fights like in that last game. Tell you what,
With 2 billion team fights.
yum.
Yum. Yummers. What is your favorite dare flavor, actually, before we talk about the game?
Mocha.
Is it really?
Oh, really?
Mm. Interesting. Side quest. Side fact.
quest.
Side yarn. Side chat. What is your favorite coffee? Because I know there's a whole meta about like black coffee versus lattes versus cappuccinos versus mochas. I'm a big mocha fan, but everyone says, grow up, mate. Have a hot chocolate.
No, those people are just haters.
What?
And I feel
Yeah.
like that person's never had any kind of enjoyment in their life. They're just miserable with their world. They walk out and it's raining like, oh, life hates me. And like, get over yourself.
It's raining for everyone, not just you, okay? All right?
Life hates me.
Life doesn't hate us. Life is giving us so many
Yeah.
blessings, and our biggest blessing right now is the fact that Champ Select is ready.
Wee woo, let's go. Jumping into game number 2. Could the upset happen? Could the unthinkable occur here, Max? Because Ground Zero smashed it in game 1. There's no fluking. There's no coincidence. That was domination.
No, and it would be hilarious, quite frankly, if they do manage to get a second win, if they go 2-0 versus PGG after what was said at the start of the game. But Bans so far looking quite similar. It is just going to be the run back. You do wonder whether PGG are happy to say, you know, we just think it was an execution matter, but it's going to be the Ari coming out. Dongi, not one, you're denying that from Emphas, who looked so good on it last game, but Dongi as well has shown that he's so prolific at this champion.
He certainly has. Yeah, Dongi looks very at ease when he's playing this champion. Does fit the role of being a little bit more aggressive with the ability to clear the wave, roam, and obviously roam a little bit easier because you get that range advantage, right, to try and make things happen a little bit better. Talking to the point that Destiny mentioned about, you know, kind of different junglers you could look at. Vi, obviously one of the best junglers to try and shut down Azeri, bit how slippery they are. Quick point, and it is going to get locked in. We know that Emphas is obviously a proficient Ari, but this is his champion. LeBlanc is the go-to.
Yeah, this is his OG pick. This is the thing he was known for in solo queue before coming into the LCO. And in terms of playing against Ari, it is a very explosive skill-based matchup in this mid lane. They offer similar things in terms of their bursty, damage, mobility-oriented champions that can really move alongside that Zeri. And speaking of champions that want to go forward, want to be explosive, it's Wukong coming out for Gooby.
It certainly is. A very strong 2v2 with a lot of damage. Not the easiest setup in terms of at least pre-level 6, but certainly if you do get a chance to try and strike, they will strike with a fair degree of conviction. Gonna switch it up in the bot lane is Pentanet. No longer will we get the passive, hey, give the President the buff, protect the President, and hope that they survive to 1v9. No, they're going to go for the Nautilus this time around. Play much more to what we're used to down in Oceania, which is find a champion, hook a champion, win.
Absolutely, and they definitely realized what they were missing in that previous game, being CC, the Ari Nautilus already coming through. When you're playing against slippery champions like Zeri, like LeBlanc, you have a Nautilus Q, you have a Nautilus depth charge, all of these land, then you layer the REE, the chompers coming on top of it, and suddenly you can actually catch them and actually take them down. So certainly going to be able to react to the likes of Azeri much more effectively with the 3 champions they've drafted so far.
You certainly are. Tron giving us a bit of insight into how it feels to play top lane right now. Yawning. It's just that boring. If you play a few bruises, tell you what though, he absolutely did have a blind on that side, and even if it is boring to be a bit of a tank, when you'd much rather be Diola for the carry, certainly made it work in their favor. They have Banner with the Graves. We know that Shernfire's played it already. Loves to be the carry, loves to be the star of the show if need be, but you'd want to see more engaged. You'd want to see more diving threat. I know one champion that really springs to mind outside of the meta of things, given that he is doing just that, Xin last game. Last but the only person really to play Lee Sin.
Yeah, I mean, a Lee Sin would be great. It's actually quite a decent matchup into the Wukong in that you can counteract a fair bit of his mobility. Same with the LeBlanc, right? Able to maintain vision throughout that clone being popped. The question for me, though, is whether they're willing to play something that high execution because, you know, we talk about the meta game of going 1-1, going 1-0 in series. If you drop 0-2 and Ground Zero not only do you get 0 points, but Ground Zero get 3 points, a team you're competing with in the standings, it can be really catastrophic. So they're going to opt for a bit more traditional of a pick, really say we are playing off that one reset, win the fight type comp with the Viego.
Absolutely. Not much has really changed from game 1 to 2. Still champions that want to find resets. 2 champions, actually, that want to find those resets to try and snowball the game and get themselves that win condition. The final response and the rounding out of the composition is a Cassante and a Braum and a token Malphite. We've seen murmurs of this being played. If you need backline access, The Rock gets it done.
Yeah, that is not what I was expecting whatsoever from PGG, to be honest. I think the Malphite really throws a spanner in the works because realistically, you pick Malphite when you're against low mobility champions that your ultimate is really great against. When I'm looking at Ground Zero, you've got a LeBlanc W, you've got Zeri who's going to have that E, who's going to be playing at 1,000,000 mobility. So unless Chippies is coming from a flank and getting this ult out of stealth, it does make me question it, not only going against the Cassante in lane, which can be a bit of a rough matchup. So overall, I do really like Ground Zero's comp. I think they have a very effective, slippery comp that can do multiple things. That addition of the Braum for a bit more safety, saying, okay, we're going to try to deny that one shot. Meanwhile, PGG, it's all about we see someone, we go.
Absolutely, and I think that really is the hallmark of what has made Pentanet such a scary team in the years go by. Just, find a target, isolate them, kill them with conviction, and roll with the punches as a result. Ground Zero, though, a lot of good things that we enjoyed in game 1. Feel like they're going to carry over into game number 2, right? Still slippery, still ability to be very oppressive in terms of their way to start off their own fights, but very much to the point that, okay, the Cassante is in here with the Zeri. Yes, there's no Nico, but it's almost like an Exodia that you've given across to your opponent again.
Yeah, absolutely. And this question is going to be whether PGG can shift up the style that, somewhat worked for them last game, which was Chippies being able to carry those late game team fights, right? Shernfire had a very poor performance in game 1. If he has a poor performance this game, him and Dongi aren't able to get going early, there's not going to be that insurance policy of a Gwen coming through and being able to win those late game team fights. So really is going to be on Shernfire and Dongi to say, hey, we are, on paper, one of the best mid-jungle duos in the league. We haven't been able to find our rhythm so far, but we're going to need to here if we want a chance of winning.
During the intermission, they need to really kick it up a gear, discuss what went wrong, make the adjustments, and load into game 2, realizing that we cannot afford to lose all 3 points here. We'll share it. Let's make this a draw. And let's show that, we backed ourselves on those interviews, and for good reason as well. Let's load into the game then for game number 2. Everybody grouped up here from Ground Zero, preventing a bot lane or a bot half of the map invade, whereas Pentanet much more fanned out.
Yeah, Pentanet not looking for anything in particular. It is incredibly hard to invade versus a Braum level 1. Someone gets caught with that Winter's Bite, you are just going to be instantly CC'd and taken down 100-0. To me, this is really going to be a comp where PGG are looking to get stuff done levels 3 onwards. Once you have that Viego able to get access to those 3 camps, able to link up with that Ahri potentially towards that mid lane. LeBlanc, obviously a very slippery target to try to kill in her own right. But then again, we talked about finding windows to rotate down towards that bot lane. They might need to do that again.
Let's see where it all kicks off again in this game. It was very much bot-centric. We didn't really talk about too much of the action happening in the mid lane. You mentioned it's a very volatile matchup, expecting to see that come into fruition at some stage here. Top lane you said could be a little bit of rough affair for the Malphite. And we have seen a lot of these top lane bruisers really crack on before level 6, try and get those grasp stacks, but then sneak in a cheeky solo kill where they can find it. Gooby, though, actually going to go for a cheeky little invade now.
Yeah, very creative pathing here. Obviously getting that ward level 1 from Empress onto that Raptor camp, finding vision of Shernfire, so they know that he's up towards his top side still. Just enables Gooby to capitalize on this. And Gooby, to his credit, a player who, when he first came into the league, was quite shaky. Now looking much more decisive, much more confident in his game plan. As bot lane saying a bit of a hey, how are ya?
Yeah, they certainly are. Send him a bit of a postcard as to what they can do if a hook goes down. A bit of damage will be received. Shernfire going to go across onto his wolves and is in a second going to be revealed on vision. Hang on a minute, he's nearby, but he's going to find out once he does path here that he has no Gromp, he has no blue buff. Doesn't have a lot much to really look excited for.
Yeah, but absolutely beautiful wards from Ground Zero across the map. That ward right next to the wolf camp gives Gooby all the heads up time he needs. Realizes Shernfire is going to be there, gets the base off, and look, he's just walking around like a stun mullet, not really sure where he's going to go. Gooby is going to be able to 3 buff him in addition to being up a lot of CS. As long as Emphis realizes that he could get ganked here, this is a very good start for Ground Zero.
Absolutely. If Emphis can survive, then this is the perfect start, and it really denies the snowballing potential of a carry jungler like the Viego. A little bit too slippery, right, when you can just distort away for free like that, and in your face come back and say, you ain't going to touch me. You will not do a thing.
I mean, what's he doing here? There's no W here.
Oh my god. The fact that he just stands up like that and says, I dare you to land a skill shot, you can't. Impossible challenge.
Yeah. He just takes the gambit that he's going to be able to dodge that E. You know, if that E connects, he probably does have to flash. Could even be a kill, but shout out to this young player holding his own, holding his nerve and saying, you know what, no, I will take the mechanics check.
Yeah, nameplates are off, and I'm not really concerned about the sort of pedigree of what you've achieved in your careers. And for Shernfire, it's like, well, I need to make this work. I've got no camps to clear. I've got no buffs to acquire. I've got no strength to gain. And Emphis just, once again, toys with him.
And this feels so uncharacteristic for a player like Shernfire. He just really seems lost right now, right? He's got his camps taken. It was a very nice invade. And realistically, he's just wasting time around this mid lane, giving time for Gooby to get further ahead in the CS department. And meanwhile, bot lane, it's just going to be a constant trade of hook into Braum Q, into no one's really advancing too much.
Yeah, the bruisers go in and basically say, nah, nothing's happening. The AD carries weaving a few auto attacks in between CSing those minion waves and say, let's carry on as business as usual, farming up their coals to get that big cash injection, to get those first big item spikes. Must be a chance. What makes it so volatile here in the top lane for the Malphite, would you say?
I would say that in terms of these two champions, Malphite's power is all up front in terms of when we're getting to these fights compared to a champion like Cassante, who really is more consistent throughout these fights. Laning phase-wise, the reason I brought it up as an issue is that Malphite doesn't really put any pressure on Cassante whatsoever in this lane phase. It is just really even scaling. And then Cassante, we know what he's like once he's getting to these mid-game fights. And particularly, if Aiko's got the heads up to flash, if Emphis can use that W, Malphite's suddenly up a creek without a paddle, whereas Cassante's in your backline feeling quite comfortable, even if he has used that ultimate. So
the one punch that you're trying to land has missed its mark. Now you're just like, hey guys, I'm another warm body on the map.
Absolutely. So it really requires just a high degree of execution and cohesion to get this Malphite ultimate to work.
Well, let's see then if a player as experienced as Chippies can make the 5th pick, the counter pick on red side in the Malphite find value. They'll have to absolutely hope it can do. Mentioned before, a lot of those fights in game number 1 were very front to back. Flanks were not often found, but certainly were when the damage was enough that they could afford to say, come at me 1v3, I'm not scared. It was all about that second Herald, as Destiny highlighted in that game as to where it all went wrong for PGG, but a much more calm, open early game here.
Yeah, and despite those early jungle shenanigans, the CS lead is even. Neither jungler up. In fact, Shernfire sitting with an XP lead on level 5 to Gooby's 4. So Shernfire has done a good job of reeling it back in. As we see a bit of an invade here, Gooby could potentially get caught checking this bush.
Well, he's going to start up the dragon. It was a complete wraparound of trying to figure out where this jungler would be.
He wasn't in the bush. He thought he was in the bush, but he wasn't.
Reveals himself. And they will have to settle for getting that Scuttle Crab right there. Distortion goes out, and Emphis just gets the vision he needs, gets the confirmation that Pentanet are still hunting for this one. As we return back to the bot lane, and we wait to get those first item purchases.
Zerk's Greaves coming through for both AD carries here. So far, not the big CS lead that we were seeing for Violet earlier on in their first game. That being said, the support matchup probably playing a big part in that. Braum feeling very comfortable dealing with the Nautilus. And this game, after game 1 was so explosive, it is a 0-0 at 7 minutes.
Who do you think, from your experience being a professional, has the most amount of pressure, be it self-imposed from Ground Zero to close this out in a 2-0 fashion to prove that we are the real deal? Or is it more on PGG with their pride and ego at stake?
I would say it has to be PGG. Like, given not only the fact that everyone thinks they should win based on their team on paper, their history, the fact that they went in so brazen and so brash into those interviews, like not even really viewing Ground Zero as an opponent, to get thrashed like that in game 1 and to have a game 2 with a draft like this, you would start to feel a sense of pressure. So it is definitely going to be on them to regroup and realize that, hey, we're the favorites for a reason, right? That's what they've got to come back to. We have all of this experience, all of this talent. We just need to make sure we're showing up today.
Certainly do need to match that confidence with the ability to perform in the moment. And with the quick turnaround between those games 1 and 2, not much time to mentally reset, but at this level you need to afford those moments. or you can find yourself victim to the receiving end of a little bit of banter that you've obviously created as a result of things. Foreigner going to rotate into the mid lane now. Might just be given a helping hand here for Dongy, who's going to try and find his first real roam of the game. That he's level 7. Gooby, though, patiently waiting in the wings, and that is Herald number 1.
It's on the card, Skimmy, but looking at the minimap, Ground Zero's bot lane is walking up. This will be a 5v4 if it is to go down. Herald's on 3,500 HP.
Yeah, looking like they're going to disengage away from this one, as you quite rightly mentioned that Violet is not here. His only contribution could be a cross-map ultimate. Not going to feel comfortable enough with that one, but Gooby says it's our time to shine. This is an unfair fight, a fight that favors us ever so more. Oh, Shernfire's gone for the preemptive flash after already using the Heartbreaker across the wall. Terrified.
I was shocked that that was the real Wukong. I thought the real Wukong was in the pit and it was the clone that was over the wall, but it was actually the real Gooby. So ultimately, Ground Zero once again doing a good job of baiting around objectives. You mentioned the flash and ult having to be burned from Shernfire. He knows if that last tick of the Brawn passive gets on him, he's surely dead. But meanwhile, Emphas in a bit of danger.
Certainly could be in a bit of danger. What kind of tactics does he have available to him? How can he get himself out of this very... What is happening? I've been stunned. I've been absolutely gapped as to what my confirmation is on this one. There is first blood at 9 minutes, and it goes to Viego. Exactly what you need. We're just saying what on earth happened to Shernfire, but he's back in the game.
Yeah, nice capitalization onto that mid lane here. Also going to mean that the Herald is going to the hands of Gooby, but yeah, felt a bit weird from Emphas there, knowing that his team was on the Herald, pushing a bit too far forwards in that mid lane, and then doing laps throughout the minions, trying to get his steps up before going down. But ultimately, it will be Ground Zero with the Herald, and Ground Zero getting some gold into their AD carry in this top side.
Yeah, definitely Emphas got the old pedometer out there, looking to try and get his 10k steps in for the day for the cardio fitness, but he's going to find himself down for the moment. It's not going to be the biggest disadvantage in terms of the outcome for Ground Zero, though. They are still going to be able to summon that Herald top side and look to inject all that gold into the pockets of Aiko, who still does have a lead at this point of the game, despite the fact that Violet has been isolating himself to try and get an XP advantage.
And neither top lane of this game really going to fall victim to a dive on this weak side, right? Both Malphite and Cassante incredibly hard champions to dive, especially when they're sitting at full HP. So realistically, just going to be a bit of wave clear from either team. A much slower, much more controlled game. Simply playing around objectives with only 1 kill so far. But like you mentioned, getting that injection of gold onto Aiko as early as possible, getting him to that spike. We saw what he did with the last game. Getting him there earlier is only going to make matters worse for PGG.
Yeah, it can be very scary if a fight were to break out, and it is the Zeri that's able to pick up all the bounties, all the kills, and all the ability to carry, and basically give us a repeat of that first game. Either way, though, it's going to be a rare chance when the lane flips are in a bit of a commanding fashion of who can respond first, who can understand the next move better. Chippies is able to get a cheeky moment there to claim a turret plate of his own, and fair few were taken in the bot lane, given the amount of pressure and time spent to try and get that very first Herald.
Yeah, absolutely. Violet feeling like the victor of those play towards the top side, right? He was very much unanswered. Tron did use the TP down to catch the wave, but ultimately, like you mentioned, those plates still going to go his way. What's interesting is not a single dragon has been picked up by either team at 11 minutes, really focusing on that Herald, on more so the gold aspect of the game so far.
And it must be, that is where the goal difference comes. That is favouring Pentanet right now. The fact that they are up by 1k, the Herald has already been used. There's no question about unrealised potential. It must just simply be the fact that you spent that time there to try and make that play happen. We've managed to sneak our way in and find plates where we can. We've got ourselves a very minor lead at just that. A bit of a skirmish break it out now around that Dragon Pit. The potential all-in onto Gooby. He used the Cyclone to try and disengage away, but it's not enough. Dongy finds that kill. Pentanet now hunting for more. Emphasis clone is popped, and the real one is found. Shernfire's second kill of the game, feeling very good. When you need to pop off, when you need to carry, Viego is your answer. Tron tries to go gamer mode, but Dongy's still got one more charge in him, and they find free.
And that's the PGG we know and we love. It's a skirmish from Shernfire going in his favor. He's got the Triforce completed on this Viego, takes down the flashless Gooby, and then it's Chippy's TPing in with that ultimate to round out another 2 kills. PGG, whilst they've get slow to start this game, as we see this play again, this is just a fight you're never winning if you're Gooby, right? I don't know why he's dashing onto him here. Down a completed mythic item, and it's just easy pickings for the side of PGG.
Yeah, has nowhere to go, right? The rest of his team is forced to try and respond to that play and saying, hey guys, we're not really interested in this, but we've got to do something. And it's one of those arguments of, you know, do you all commit to the bad play, or do you just say, hey, chop off the limb to save the rest of the body?
Certainly didn't go 127 hours with this play. Opted to lose the whole thing instead, but, you know, ultimately we talked about this mid-jungle having to get ahead to negate some of that scaling difficulties that they would have later. 2-0 and 2 for both Shernfire and Dongy here. Feeling quite comfortable at this point in the game, and now this takes some of the weight off Violet, right? No longer is he the sole person who, if they kill, the game's over. Realistically, that he's got some help.
What is the valid concern, I think, when you draft a very carry-oriented jungler, especially one like Viego, if they're not popping off, they are literally doing support damage. If they are popping off, though, as you quite rightly mentioned, it's that buffer, that early to mid-game buffer where you're saying, we can skirmish. Violet, keep farming. Don't worry. 2 items come online. You start to feel a little bit interested in, okay, what are we doing on the map? Ultimately, though, they are going to find themselves that very first dragon at only 13 minutes into this one, so Soul Point is well and truly off the cards.
It certainly is looking like a late-game Soul if we were to get one at all. But that being said, if we talk about the PGG playstyle that they love, it is certainly one where Violet feels comfortable to farm. You were talking about this earlier. Get him farm, get him to 30 minutes, those 3-4 item spike, and he'll take over the game for you, right? So if you just have this bit of a buffer with that lead you've acquired from your mid-jungle, it makes his job so much easier, it makes PGG's job so much easier, and they're feeling well and truly comfortable in this game.
And almost right on cue last game, as if we'd called the outcome of the game. It nearly happened, right? It did get to the 30-minute point. It did happen where Jinx is starting to pop off. Obviously, Chippy's on the Gwyn too. The late game does favor Pentanet. That's something that they've always been quite well known to really achieve, but it is all about now, how do you weather this 4-0 advantage in the early game, and how do Ground Zero respond with a composition that is unable to try and excel, because this is relentless pressure trying to really target the pocket pick LeBlanc.
He's playing so confidently, like the fact that he doesn't W instantly there when he sees the Viego, instead opting to play into his mist, really speaks volumes to how comfortable he feels on his own pocket one trick. So, you know, it did end up biting him in the backside previously, but right now, as we see topside, it's a bit of fighting here. He's gone all out.
And he certainly has gone all out, but can he find the kill onto Chippy? This is the question. Easier said than done. Certainly to be the case. Foreigner in trouble right now, and he's going to actually be preyed upon by Gooby, looking for that final shot! And it's going to be Emphis, of all people, that kill confirms it. The 3-man wrecking party go for a roam and they find what they need. Question is, have they bitten off more than they can chew? Because they're chasing for more. They want it. Glacial Fissure isolates out Dongy. Instant flash respect. The mid-jungle duo of Pentanet are 4-0, but not anymore. Shutdown found by the one person you couldn't afford to give it to.
Absolutely, and whilst we were singing PGG's praises, it's Foreigner getting caught out. It's Dongy not flashing the Glacial Fissure, which allows him to go down after using the ultimate prior. And now, not only are those 2 kills, it's the Herald as well. Ground Zero, a massive swing.
Huge swing to try and claw this game back, because it was starting to get away from them. Just passive gold leads, cheeky little kills found here and there in an early game that was starting to really favor Pentanet, but a roam that goes rogue in the river.
Yeah, we take a look at this replay again. Meanwhile, there's 3 members topside, so it's Foreigner having to make up for Violet's mispositioning here. He ends up going down to Gooby. It's Emphis, like you mentioned, flashing forward to finalize the kill. But just simply a greedy rotation from PGG up the river when 3 of their teammates are topside. And we see this again. Dongy used that ultimate earlier to try to catch off Emphis in that mid lane. Doesn't flash the Glacial Fissure. And once you flash with the chains on you, you're as good as dead.
Yeah, you're not going to cover enough distance, right, to try and break that chain. So I feel like this mid lane really has been that test of mechanics of like, do I need to just stall early? Do I need to flash? Are you going to do it? I don't think you are. And unfortunately, they called their bluff, and this time it didn't work out. Yeah,
both of them, it feels like waiting to the last second on every play, for better or for worse, as PGG have brought all 5 members down towards this mid lane to try to break this turret skimmy.
And they certainly have. All out mode connects, and they found their target. They found what they need. Shernfire falls on down. Shutdown does go the way of Tron. Chippy jumps in with the unstoppable falls. And he's done just that. They have found 3 targets. Locked on down. Do you need the surprise factor when you've got mobility? Just bonk them on the head.
Absolutely, and Jinx, Violet sitting on full HP after that fight. He's feeling good, throwing rockets into the entire enemy team, and that's just a fight, plain and simple.
That is disgusting, Max. How does that work? How has that happened? They're not going to find the Zeri, but they've definitely snuck a cheeky kill in when they had no right doing so.
Yeah, the autofill hook just catching an unaware Emphis on the back end of it. It's going to be 2 turrets going down as well, so it really feels like this game is on a knife's edge. As we see this once again, Bulldog drops the shield nice and early, so he doesn't have available for when this fight starts. Gooby hooked on, and they're trying to DPS Chippies, but look at this guy, he's so tanky. Gets a huge Malphite ultimate onto 3, and then Violet on the back end, just free hitting, able to take down as many members as he likes.
That's what you love to see, a pumped up team fight, and the mechanics showcase that, hey, we have all these conditions, we have all these abilities. But you expect it to be as simple as, hey, on your head, in your face, I'm going to land it right there and then. And, well, they certainly did. And what could have been a game that was slowly clawing out of their control is right back where they started, up now by 5,000 gold. And have now just claimed another turret.
They absolutely have. Their position is looking a lot better as this game goes on. As Hook's on.
Hook into the chompers. That was really nice there as Bulldog is completely out of place. A sitting duck. Aiko with the thumbs that says, I'm out of here. Jumps across the wall and pieces out on this occasion. And it is to no one's surprise that it is going to be another game dominated by the 280 carries, but this time Violet is ahead.
Yeah, and credit where credit is due. Foreign have been finding a lot of hooks back to back, just picking off member after member. Realistically on that Lulu, not getting to showcase too much of what he's good at, but now certainly looking more at home on this engaged style of champion.
Gives him a lot more, almost like jungler instinct, right? Like, I'm here to gank, and this is what I can do, especially on a champion like Nautilus. I mean, you wind back the clock to, I forget what season it was, Nautilus in the jungle of all things, right? So, in a way, it's almost like a comfort pick to debut and showcase when you're playing support.
So now the question for me is, how did Ground Zero approach this game on from here on out? Because front to back, you're not really going to be winning because of how fed the Jinx is, because of how squishy your own front line is. We saw Braum getting hooked, even blown up through his shield, right? He's not very tanky whatsoever. As another hook.
Oh, the all-in actually onto Gooby here as they try to commit to the kill. Chompers go out. This time they do not connect, but the damage is just a little bit too illegal. And it's enough when 4 members connect to say that, hey, this is what we're about. This is when PGG are at their strongest. Bonds and unity and really the power of friendship, I suppose.
The power of friendship seemingly working wonders for the side of PGG. Just non-stop action, right? They see a play. It's almost as if they have no other response but to go for it. And really, Aiko, unlike last game where it felt like Ground Zero were really cohesive around all these fights, it feels like they're the ones getting picked off. They're the ones getting separated, and PGG are capitalizing.
It's almost as if there cannot really be a case where one jungler can excel and both can do the same at the same time. It's really about one will stomp and the other will be stomped. TP is going to come on through here as they do dive that tower, and it's another kill going into the pocket here of Shernfire. Now 4 to his name. All Out Mode connects. They have taken out Violet. That's what you need. Gooby's back in the mix of things. Tron is running them down so fast. So much damage, so much rundown potential as they look to spoon feed that kill into Aiko's hand, who is literally going Tony Hawk mode across these walls, pulling a trick and getting himself back in.
Look at Shernfire though. There's a lot of low HP bars. I really don't know if Ground Zero can go for this Baron skimmy.
Does seem dangerous. Tron is so low.
TP's up 2 for Dongy. They can't do this.
Gooby's already burnt his ultimate. I don't know if you really want to stay around for much longer. As you say, TP is going to come on in. They're going to have the HP advantages, the ability to try and strike fast and strike hard. CC Charm, it's all onto Emphas, and their HP bars are blinking.
I can understand the thought process from Ground Zero. You've just gotten 2 kills, you're down quite significantly, you feel like you need to go for something. As we see this play once again, like we mentioned, Braum, not tanky at all, but Emphas able to get in and get a nice chunk onto Violet. It's ultimately the TP though, that's the real game changer here. Coming in, Cassante ulting Violet back, and then the Ghost is on, which enables him to chase down Chippies for the second kill.
And it certainly does. Chippy came in with one job, and it really was the difference, right? From those 2 bruises from the top lane coming in to try and isolate out a key target and really run away with things. I like the idea, though, as you quite rightly say, Baron on spawn. Let's have a crack.
Let's have a crack indeed. And, you know, if you are looking for a point of strength, there's Gooby.
He's going to flash into Violet and try and give him another chance to go back to that grey screen. Opportunity does go amiss as, well, really, Foreigner has isolated out Bulldog. Again, another fight without their support to try and lay down that Winter's Bite. Another reset found as Shernfire comes into life himself and says, okay, you've got no juggler, you've lost 2 members, maybe it's our turn to look at starting up this Baron.
PGG saying to Ground Zero, that is how you engage. Ultimately not able to find Violet with that initial Wukong from Gooby. Kites back, and then the counter engage is devastating. And PGG, 2 members down, they're going to look towards this Baron. They're going to look to take a commanding position in this game too.
That they certainly should look forward to as, yep, still the 5k gold lead and still the Baron is going to be taken on down, but it almost feels like Gooby just jumps the gun a little bit too early.
Yeah, it does. There's no one who can really follow him here, and the way that Bard's positioned with those chompers behind him, no one can follow up. Once the hook comes down, keep in mind there's no Wukong clone because he used it before. It really is just a matter of hitting the closest target for PGG, and they do exactly that, take the Baron, and now up 5,000 gold.
Such a strong position to be in, but it almost feels like we want to play the devil's advocate like we did for Pentanet in game 1 as for Ground Zero. What happens if the game does go late? Is there a similar conversation to that game where we talk about scaling, where we say, okay, just give this area a few chances.
Well, that's what I was going to say before, is that if you are looking for a point of hope, is the fact that Zeri is 2-0-2 almost at that Titanic Hydra. That being said, her job is a lot harder. This game she has to deal with the depth charge as we have another fight.
We certainly do. Shernfire going in with the flash to try and guarantee the stun onto his key target. Not going to be able to found, but Last Cone will deter anything else from occurring in this occasion. All eyes towards the bot lane. A 5-man attempt to start up the siege with the Baron and Spire.
And Bulldog's going to be very careful. Only realistically Tron can afford to tank a charm, can afford to tank a hook. Anyone else gets hit, they are basically dead to rights. But as I was saying before, Aiko's job is so hard with a depth charge, with a Malphite ultimate to watch out for. Shernfire is very low.
Yeah, it's the ultimate way to safety, as they are the ones looking to try and be strong, but it's not enough when they actually bait them all in. Tron says, I can try and do it all on my own right now. Isolates out Doggy, but Doggy can run away, forces out the flash. Tron now separated from the team. Unstoppable force on their heads! And what can you do? Tron has literally gone the other side of the map to realize that his team is dead without him. And inside his own base, Pensnet say, you're not surviving. But he says, maybe I just will.
Perfection.
Oh, okay.
Perfection from Shernfire there. Baits the entire Ground Zero team in thinking they could get him. The stopwatch was cast on basically 0 HP. But he's able to get the stopwatch off, able to get the reset. And it's just a clean fight. PGG are not feeling happy with their Game 1 performance, but they should be about Game 2.
That they certainly should. They had a point to prove. They had a bit of pressure self-imposed on them to say that we need to back the courage of our convictions. We said we're good, we know we're good. And when it came in from a prediction standpoint, we should have got that clean at 2-0. But credit to really Ground Zero, credit is due, is the fact that they gave them a really good run for their money in Game 1. In Game 2, I think in fact, they tried to run it back in a very similar fashion. Almost felt a little bit solved in a way, and the idea around this Malphite being maybe not the best pick, it proved invaluable.
Yeah, certainly made me eat my words there. Honestly, had a very strong idea of what they did wrong in Game 1, what they needed to fix, and executed on that for Game 2.
What a game.
Yeah, I mean, that's the markings of a top-tier team, is even though something works against you in one game, you have to be able to very quickly come around and be like, okay, we know how to shut it down. They can't run the exact same comp, the same tactic. We have to have answers for it. And big props to PGG for really bouncing back the way that they did it and taking team fights cleaner, having a nicer early game as well as Destiny.
Yeah, it was much cleaner. I really liked how they adapted Foreigner onto the Nautilus, put Chippies on Malphite, and they just let Violet and Shern run over the map. In this team fight here, beautiful ult from Chippies. They find the one-shot onto Emphas, and they just played their comp really well. They just used all their ultimates. They looked for one-shot plays, and they just played front to back. Overall, solid game from Pentanet. As Nat said, lovely adaptation. I love that they changed away from playing the Enchanter and more just Send It. I think Send It comps are the best way to win in those. And look at that ultimate from Chippies. My lord, he got a 3-man knockup. And they just played this comp really well.
They were so unafraid, I think, is the other thing for the composition that they were playing. There were a lot of fights that they were willing to take under turrets. The way that they were able to engage or re-engage with certain initiations on the side of PGG, I think was something else that was the biggest change up from Game 1 to Game 2.
Yeah, like Skimmy said, I think putting Dongy on something that can push and move, I think Ari is the perfect champion for that. And I think that really highlighted going through mid together with Shern into the side lanes. Was a really big factor in why they won this game.
Mm-hmm. Anyone that stood out that you were surprised they were able to do what they did? I wanted to say Violet on Jinx just because of the other game, but at the same time it's Violet on Jinx.
Yeah. Honestly, I got to give it to Shern. I feel like Shern had a really rough Game 1, and then Game 2 he kind of flipped the switch and kind of just performed.
It was like 0-7 to 7-1. Like
yeah,
the reverse
he's
gap.
that guy. Shern is the one guy I know who'll have a terrible game. Next game, he'll look like the best player on the server.
yeah.
Did you have something that you wanted to add over there as well, Max, on this game number 2?
No, I completely agree with that. Shernfire just really did what he had to in this game, which was win the mid jungle. He beat up Gooby, which is what was the downfall of Pensnet in Game 1, and really turned it around for them. So yeah, I completely agree with Destiny that he was my biggest performer for this game.
The stats are so different in Game 2 compared to Game 1 as well. Like, we look at the damage charts and we're not even hitting anywhere near the numbers that we saw for Game 1, but also just the gold difference, the way that it went for PGG. It was just this slow build-up where the inevitable definitely happened. Even some of the fights that we also saw as well, you're just like, it's inevitable. It's going to go this way. And so big props to PGG to be able to close it out and not really give that wiggle room for any of the timings that could have come out on the side of Ground Zero. Was there a specific timing that they could have looked for, actually, Destiny, for Ground Zero?
I think once Shern got ahead, they kind of just took over the game. I think Emphas on the LeBlanc, when he got caught on mid around the Herald timing, I think that was kind of a crucial mistake. I think giving PGG all that space to take over the map was a really bad death, but I felt like they just got behind too much early game to make a comeback.
Do you think Ground Zero aren't that type of team, Max, that are able to play from behind, or do you think that was just this game and there's plenty of other opportunities to prove themselves and they kind of have almost even in last week?
Yeah, I think this game, the main difference was that their comp was a lot harder to execute, in my opinion. The fact that you're playing a Wukong, LeBlanc, mid-jungle means that your engages have to be a lot cleaner, and it's not really as easy as I'm just going to point and click stun someone, I'm going to point and click, CC them and get a kill like that. So I think, to me, it's a whole different type of learning curve if they want to execute a comp like that.
Well, the player that you guys have been talking about a lot that you're very impressed with is Shernfire, and lucky for you guys, we have him here. Shernfire, hey, look, even though it was a draw, congratulations on a phenomenal performance in Game 2. How are you feeling about it?
I don't want to be here right now, honestly. Shame on me. But yeah, it's part of the process.
Yeah, of course. Talk us through, the emotions that kind of happen, or at least the thinking, because Game 1 was rough for you. Like, there's no tiptoeing around that one. But you bounced back and you outperformed. Like, you really shone in Game 2.
Well, I just think it's well with Foreigner here and with all like the internal issues we've been having recently. Yeah, it's gonna be a bit like on and off. I think that's just about it. Like, honestly, I have to improve as well in my own performance, obviously. But yeah, we are just trying to smooth out some rough patches right now.
Okay, all right, that's very understandable. It does happen at times.
Yeah, look, despite the bad time, Shern, honestly, this game you guys played really well, and I think you guys should be proud of that. Overall, obviously, things aren't going as well as you'd like. How do you feel like you're going to change that over the next few weeks?
I think every loss is, like I said, part of the process. Every win is part of the process, and we just have to get better. Let's be honest here. But besides that, I think we are putting in the work to be the best team in the league. It's just I guess it hasn't shown yet, right? We're still losing, so I'm confident in our improvement.
I mean, there's still plenty more weeks left in this split. I do want to know, though, from your point of view, what do you think is one of your biggest strengths that you have as a jungler? Something that you might do better than some of the other junglers here in the LCO?
Full clearing, I'm the number one full clearer.
Yeah, I love to hear it. And then also just very briefly for Game 1, I want to touch on some of the struggles you guys had with taking objectives, sort of poising around them. Was that just a breakdown in communication, or that's also something that you guys think you need to work on?
No, like comms are usually a band-aid to like bad team fighting. It's just individuals. Like, if we're gonna take accountability, it's individuals that need to improve, whether it's me, whether it's someone else. But yeah, that's something that got exposed today. Like, maybe with Appy that we wouldn't have lost, but at the same time we wouldn't have got exposed to these problems because Appy probably covered for someone else's problems.
Yeah, well, it looks like you guys are very on top of taking in these learning lessons. Do you have anything you want to add, Destiny, very quickly?
It's all part of the process. And Shern, we believe in you, mate. I've seen you at your peak.
Good to see you, Destiny.
You're a bloody monster.
Of course,
You're a bloody monster. I remember 2017 Shernfire. I want to see it back, all right? You got this.
You and improved.
That's my words.
Perfect. Shernfire, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate all the info that you gave us, and congrats still even on the draw.
Cheers, guys.
See ya.
See ya.
Give us an anecdote. Regale us with a story of you in the Shernfire days.
Oof. I remember when in 2017 Direwolves, we had a scrim win rate, I think, of like over 90%. It was like
what?
Insane. It was it was the best scrim team I've ever been in.
Yeah.
And Shern every game would just run everyone at that time. When he came back from Korea, this man was a legend. So I would love to see him get back to that form. It was mind-blowing. Nothing I've seen anywhere else.
I'm sure that's like a standard that he holds himself to as well. He's like,
Yeah.
"God, that 90% win rate in scrims, I want to bring it back. I was an absolute monster on it, but he still played well. I do like the fact that he was able to flip that, and he's very aware of some of the issues that might be present now.
Well, for me, and you rightly called it out, that last team fight for me is just a cherry on the cake. The fact that, you know, you bait in the team fight, you said, oh, he's been caught ults away, then the stopwatch, picture perfect. They're fully committed into the idea of, like, we have to kill this Viego, and it's the game-ending fight, right? So, I feel like when you sort of talk about players and what they can bring to a team, it's like, do you want the consistent guy who's, you know, just going to always cruise through, full clear, couple of kills here, maybe a couple of, you know, really good performances, or do you want the guy that can literally go 0-10 and just look like dog, or like just pure like 1v9, I'm the best player, send me to Worlds?
Yeah, well, look, speaking of 1v9s or going 10-0, we got Aiko joining us because that was his scoreline in Game 1. Aiko, hey, look, congratulations on a draw. Was this what you were sort of expecting in this matchup?
Sorry. What was the question again?
Were you expecting to go 1-1 with Pentanet, or did you not really rate your chances of getting a win?
I think we did pretty good at first game, but the second game, I think we are probably a bit struggle. But I think I did pretty good at second game, but I couldn't carry my team. But I still think if we meet them next round, I think we can still beat them easily.
I like it. I like the confidence. What do you think was the biggest struggle in Game 2? Was it in the early game, maybe a little bit later, around objectives?
I feel like Shernfire play mid, like he cover Dongy a lot, and then Jason let Emphis like soloing the lane, and then after that Jason is trying to help bot lane, and then after that like mid lane kind of messed up, you know. So like yeah, they push mid lane, they get control everything. So like yeah, we lose a bit. Yeah, okay. I think that's the problem when we lost the game.
Yeah, makes sense.
How do you feel about Zeri right now at the moment? What's your thoughts on the champion?
Oh my god, this is the knee. Seriously broken. So OP, bro.
Hey, at least he's honest.
Just OP, bro.
Nah, you had a great Game 1. Is there any other champs in particular that you'd like to play in the LCO in the future, or are you hiding this tech?
Guys, next week, ban Aphelios.
Aphelios, okay.
Interesting. How has playing... Pardon me, I'll start again. How has playing with Ground Zero and this sort of new roster for you been eye-opening?
New roster, new environment is actually pretty good for me. I feel like Ground Zero actually a good team than Kanga, to be honest, guys. I'm sorry, Kanga, but Ground Zero, actually, Kanga give me a chance to join other team. So like, I think like Ground Zero actually a good team. So like, they are really like friendly. They understand each other. If they have a problem, they speak to me or like coach to figure it out. I think Ground Zero actually a good roster I've been playing with.
Perfect. I like to hear that.
Yeah, I think you guys have a great, bright future. I think today was the first step of many wins in the future, hopefully. You guys had a great game.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us, Aiko.
Thank you very much. All good. Have a nice night. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye. You got to give him the cheeky wave there.
He's a happy man.
Oh, he is. He's like, yeah, look, we didn't get a 2-0 sure, but man, this is the start. Let me show you. It's only week 2, my friends.
Yeah, he's on the come up. He's been someone who's been hyped up ever since he debuted in the league on order last year, and he's really, you know, at times I've gone to show, I think last split he's talked about it on Kanga, wasn't his best showing, but now on Ground Zero, already having performances like that in week 2, the ceiling is here for him.
Yeah, it very much so. And do you think the ceiling is to the level where he could be getting their MVP? It could be any of the 10 players. That's the tough thing about a draw.
Can we give like an award for Gooby's interview and an award for Aoki's Zeri? Can we do like a 50-50?
I'm going to say Chippies is my MVP.
Ooh, he was pretty consistent in both games.
Good game.
That is very valid.
I think did pretty well for both games.
Yeah, because it is a best of 2. It's not just one game.
Yeah.
I'd say Aiko still though.
Okay, so you're still going Aiko, you're going Chippies, you're still going to double down on Aiko as well?
I give it to Chippies.
Okay, all right. Well, let's see where our MVP, their MVP did go. Gooby, yes! My man! I love you guys who voted for Gooby in Twitch chat. Yeah, I'm all for this MVP. This is exactly where I would have put my vote too. You know what? Sometimes it's not just about how you play on the Rift, Max. Sometimes it's about what you bring to the couch too. And my man Gooby, that interview absolutely brought it.
Yeah, look, honestly, the interview really sold it. I think his Maokai game He did what he needed to do on Maokai. I think it's very hard to win an MVP on Maokai just because there's no real skill expression on the champion. But he did what he needed to do, facilitated the win really well, and we don't mention game 2. So
I think credit where credit is due. A kill participation on 94%.
Yeah.
So it kind of shows that like if Gooby makes the play happen, they will profit from it.
Yeah.
And you saw how much he struggled in game 2, and hence the result kind of goes awry. So I think you see in game 1, you were literally saying, right, the Maokai ultimate on CD was just go, 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 and it just looked unstoppable. Game 2 and the Wukong's a little bit out of sync. Yeah, it's not a pretty picture.
You made me just remember a question I forgot to ask them was about who was doing the shot calling. And if it was, you know what, I'll have to save that one
Next
for
time.
another time. Yeah, hopefully if I get another Gooby interview, I'll have to ask him that one. But yeah, look, I like that MVP. I'm all for it, but now it's a real guessing game. Play of the day.
I said
Do
it
you
before.
even remember anything?
I said mine before.
Okay.
I think it was literally the last player we saw, the team fight where the stopwatch
The
goes
Shernfire
off.
stopwatch.
And you think it's the same?
Yep.
Yeah.
Really?
Didn't you guys pick it?
No.
Oh.
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, this one's blind.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think the Aiko quadra kill maybe, or the Kisei top play where he flashed and got the
True, the
Quadra.
Kisei
I was
quads.
going to
I
say
think
there
the
were a lot
Kisei-
of
I
good
think
ones
it's a
in
lot
the
of
first
good
VOT as well.
I think the Shern or Kisei one maybe.
Okay, a little bit of a coin flip. We're not sure where it's going to go. Let's just watch it play
Reese,
out.
just play it, just play
Let's
the clip.
run it back on our play of the day.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah, it's the Kisei quad.
The
I forgot
Kisei quad.
about this series, to be honest. I didn't know you could vote for this series.
Max forgot that there were 2 BO2s today, but you're right. This was
Hey, Russ
absolutely...
was joking. You get caster memory. You just forget everything that's happened during the day.
Literally.
It was a phenomenal quadra kill there from Kisei, all the way back in game 1, too. So it wasn't even the fact that it was just the first best of 2. It was literally the first game as well.
Exactly. Too long.
All those, 4 hours ago.
Too
I
long.
don't have that memory.
We've all got
You
like
think I got that
ADHD
memory?
brains,
Yeah.
like 30-second
Yeah,
attention
no.
spans. It's like we're all just watching shorts and like, oh, next one,
Next
next
one?
one, next
Next.
one.
You
Next
have a
one.
chance to redeem yourself, Max, all right?
Do I?
Standings. If you can name...
Oh, I got this easy.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So first place is obviously the Chiefs.
Yep.
Second place is Bliss on 4 points.
Yep.
Is there a team tied with them?
Nope.
No. So then we got the other Oh my god.
They just
It
won
gets hard.
yesterday.
It
They
gets hard.
2-0'd yesterday. One of the dog teams.
Come on, you got
Star
this,
Wars,
Max,
Star
yeah.
Wars, it's
Yep,
Star Wars.
yep,
Also up there would be Mammoth with 2 points.
yep.
And
Tied
PGG.
with them. Yep,
And
also tied with
Ground
them.
Zero.
yep.
And then we have Kanga, Vertex all on 1.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
yeah,
on
Kanga
zero.
and then
Kanga
Vertex and
and
Zero.
one, yeah.
That should be it. Well done.
Not bad, man.
I'm
Solid.
very proud of you there. Yep, 6-4-3, tied on 2. We have 3 teams, and then Kanga and then Vertex. So if you guys didn't remember everything Max just said, luckily it's right here in front of you there. So Chiefs have a massive buffer for themselves already with a 2-0. Gives them 6 points. Bliss obviously had a bit of an unfortunate showing for themselves yesterday where they got that draw, but that's all right, not to worry, because there's still at least a point difference between them and third place, and then Ground Zero, Pentanet, Mammoth, Kanga, Vertex. A little bit worried for Vertex. It's not to the point where it's anywhere near a do or die at all, but you got to start at least pulling out some draws for themselves.
It's just the growing pains of new players coming into the scene. Returning players like Rosie also, right, coming into the fold of things. But we saw it happen with a lot of these players from Ground Zero last split, a lot of these players from Kanga splits gone by as well, where you are the new kids on the block, and you got to adapt yourself to this new environment where you are scrimming religiously, where you are playing different champions, where meta changes, the cellular champion pool is no longer good.
Yeah.
So a lot of these players, no doubt, are going to find themselves in sort of the pressure pot of like, hang on a minute, what is all this? And then, you know, a month has gone by, half the split has already been consumed. You're thinking, there's no way we can get ourselves back into this one. But I think the standings, even if strength of schedule has favored certain teams like the Chiefs, I think it looks fairly to what our power rankings are. I feel like the middle of the pack, though, is where a lot of that volatility is going to happen, which is going to change week on week.
Yeah, I mean, there is next to nothing between them still, but that's because it's only week 2. I want to look at what we're going to be seeing next week, though. It's week 3. Day 1, that's going to be on our Monday.
Oh,
guys,
banger.
we're coming back on Monday, so you get to start your week right. It's Vertex up against Kanga. So the 2 bottom of the team at the moment, 2 bottom teams of the ladder, 8th and 7th place. And then we're going to be seeing Mammoth up against Chiefs. So 4th up against First. And I really do believe that Mammoth have it in them to take a game minimum off of Chiefs' Destiny.
Yep, definitely possible. I think Mammoth bot lane is one of the best bot lanes in the league, so I think there's definitely upset potential there. And I mean, that Vertex Kanga game, that's going to be a banger for sure.
100%.
I mean, you're either going to be walking away of the same point difference between you guys if you draw, or another team going to be pushing themselves up by a whole extra 2 points.
all I'm hoping for is that series, Vertex and Kango, is going to be one where it has, like, what, more kills than there are minutes, where it's just, like, constantly just sending it. Both teams just full out early game. We're not just like AFK, let's just try and scale 30 minutes, who can, like, not throw the game. I just want to see full sending it, just absolute on repeat, and then 50 kills or something crazy.
50 kills!
It's happened in the past. I think of, like, some of the bouts that Gravitas and Mammoth had in the past.
Yeah.
They were just like 50, 60 kills. And it's just like, more. Just give me more.
More. Well, look, Destiny, we're not going to have you back next week, unfortunately. So any other big things you want to put out there for LCO, any of those matchups, or anything you want to share about today?
Thank you for having me, guys.
Oh, he's so sweet. I thought you were going to be like, yeah, let me tell you.
Who are you replacing midway through the split?
We'll find out. We'll see who needs. Better call Destiny. That's my.
Better call Destiny. All right.
1-800-DESTINY if you guys are looking for a support. Man's got a little bit of spare time on his hands. I'm just going to add him like this. But it's been great having you, Destiny. I really appreciate it. Obviously, Max, Skimmy, thank you guys so much for joining me in week 2. But guys, enjoy your weekend. Go have some fun. We'll see you back here, same time on Monday for some more LCO.
Unanimously saying it's going to be a 2-0. Hex Flash out here from Elatoric. Biding his time, lands the hook. He does not care, you can't juke me, but can you kill me is the question. It was a trap, and it is one that Kisse will answer back to make it a 1-for-1, but Mayfun's got a lockdown. He's got double buffs. He's got a double himself, and potentially a case of him trying to find a pick in the top lane. It's not the case! What a hook! Getting fighter, that's the target you need. In jumps Fire, he's got the Afterlife speed, flashes on their heads, and gives them a bouncy castle. Triple kill, make it a quadra.
Meanwhile, this fight's not done, Skimmy.
Certainly isn't. Lamb's fight is still there. It's going to be used very early on into that fight. Stuck in a rock and a hard place. Is Eladoric. There's no Lance going to be used right here and right now. As Kevy. Oh, he's trying to kite it out. He's actually got it. I don't believe it. Jake can't kill him. He's kiting. Oh, he needed one more Q reset. The cooldown must have been agonizingly close. Might be a grey screen in a second as Fire walks in and says, here, have a absolutely beautiful explosive cast. Two-man encore from the opposition. And is that enough to prevent Kango from falling on down? I don't think it is. Stinky there, sent to the outside. Kevy jumps in and says, this is what I can do. This is the depth that this Chiefs roster has.
We need to see where this is going. It's going on front on. Fights on Skimmy.
Tron is on. He goes in for the ultimate flash across instantly. Is Gooby. Crescent Guard goes out, buying time. Wild Growth is there. Knock up, damage. Rocket explosion. Should be finds one, finds two. Violet's in there as well. That's what you need. These carries that we literally just mentioned, you couldn't afford to give them an inch. Take it all in the late game. Will that be the factor? Will that be the difference? In jumps Tempest, finds a charm onto Gwen. Instant headbutt coming out here from Maokai. Look to try and lock him down with Tron. In jumps Bulldog. Look to try and take this backline down. Violet receives the Wild Growth. He gets charmed. He cleanses out. He gets shredded. He's gone. Infest found 2. He starts it off. He finishes it off. As he bursts on down. And they claim an ace.
Shernfire is very low.
Yeah, it's the ultimate way to safety, as they are the ones looking to try and be strong, but it's not enough when they actually bait them all in. Tron says, I can try and do it all on my own right now. Isolates out Doggy, but Doggy can run away, forces out the flash. Tron now separated from the team. Unstoppable force on their head. And what can you do? Tron is literally on the other side of the map to realize that his team is dead without him. And inside his own base, Pensnet say,